Chapter 667, Great Burning Heavens Scripture. Even if 2 of the 10 great martial saints join forces, do you think they can kill Li Lingtian? 11 Wan Yan Nu looked at young Master Yunfeng coldly and said. The 10 great martial saints were all top-notch experts of the kingdom. If one of them died, one of them would be gone. Although the 10 great martial saints were not the subordinates of the kingdom, with so many experts supporting them, the kingdom's popularity and status had also increased a lot. If the 10 great martial saints were to fall one after another, it would definitely be a blow to the kingdom. Moreover, although the 10 great martial arts were powerful, they were still stronger than a few fifth sky martial saints working together. Li Lingtian had killed the combined forces of the martial saints. It would be suicide to send 1 or 2 of the 10 great martial saints. If I kill Li Lingtian, what reward will His Majesty give me? Young Master Yunfeng smiled and looked at Wan Yan Nu. You can kill Li Lingtian. That's impossible, young Master Yunfeng. I'm not looking down on you. Although your cultivation is profound, Li Lingtian is no ordinary person. You think you're stronger than the 10 great martial saints? The 9th rank of the 10 great martial saints, Heavenly Yi Knight, has fallen. Can you kill him? If you can kill Li Lingtian, I'll give you 10 billion. Me too. If you kill Li Lingtian, I'll give you 10 billion as well. 10 billion, I'll bid 10 billion too. Instantly, the super experts in the hall looked at young Master Yunfeng in shock. They understood that young Master Yunfeng was setting up a trap just now. His goal was to get him to kill Li Lingtian so that Wan Yan Nu would benefit from it. Despite encountering such a situation, they did not point it out. Instead, they goaded young Master Yunfeng into fighting Li Lingtian with a bet of benefits. Whether young Master Yunfeng did it intentionally or unintentionally, they all wanted young Master Yunfeng to be cannon fodder. What benefits does young Master Yunfeng want? Tell me about it. As long as you can kill Li Lingtian, I'll consider your conditions. Wan Yan Nu was startled. He had a faint smile on his face. At first, he thought that young Master Yunfeng wanted to scheme against the experts of the kingdom, but now he understood that young Master Yunfeng wanted to obtain a treasure of the kingdom. If it could really kill Li Lingtian, a treasure was nothing. After all, Li Lingtian was too powerful and posed a great threat to the kingdom. If they were to kill Li Lingtian, it would not be a big deal for them to give away their worldly possessions. All right, I'll say it. I hope your Majesty can consider it. If I can kill Li Lingtian, I hope that your Majesty will allow me to study the Great Burning Heavens mantra for half a year. Young Master Yunfeng said lightly. His face was calm, but his eyes were looking at Wan Yan Nu, wanting to know the change in Wan Yan Nu's expression. What? You want the Great Burning Heavens scripture? Young Master Yunfeng, are you joking? Wan Yan Nu stood up with a furious look on his face. He looked at young Master Yunfeng coldly as if he wanted to kill someone. As a king, he was actually angered by a 5th sky martial saint. How angry must he be? Great Burning Sky Scripture. Young Master Yunfeng wants the king's Great Burning Sky Scripture. The Great Burning Heavens Scripture is the Wan Yan family's most powerful cultivation method, a top-notch heaven-grade cultivation method. Young Master Yunfeng wants to cultivate the Great Burning Heavens Scripture, right? The Great Burning Heavens Scripture is one of the 3 top-tier heaven-rank cultivation techniques in Moon Song Kingdom. Young Master Yunfeng has already cultivated one of them. Could it be that young Master Yunfeng still has the energy to comprehend the second one? Young Master Yunfeng is indeed the #1 genius of Moon Song Kingdom. Instantly, not only was Wan Yan Nu furious, but the other powerhouses were also incomparably shocked. They all knew about the Wan Yan family's cultivation method. With this cultivation method, the Wan Yan family had nurtured countless super experts. The 1st and 4th ranked experts of the 10 martial saints also cultivated the Great Burning Sky Scripture. This cultivation method was definitely the most precious treasure of the Wan Yan family. It was as important as the throne. Now, young Master Yunfeng wanted to comprehend the Great Burning Sky Scripture for half a year. Wasn't this too much? In fact, in the eyes of the strong, this cultivation technique was even more important than the throne. After all, cultivating this cultivation technique could give one the chance to become a strong person and increase their strength. A terrifying cultivation could ignore royal authority. I just want to see the great burning sky scripture. Do the martial arts methods in this world have to stick to the rules? If I comprehend the great burning sky scripture, I can also give the Yun family's ice and snow summoning technique to the Wanyan family to comprehend for half a year. Young Master Yun Feng said indifferently, completely ignoring Wanyan Nu's anger and the instigation of other experts. He wanted the great burning sky scripture, so he naturally wouldn't care about anything else. In his eyes, no matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, he could not escape his array Dao and all sorts of heaven-defying offensive techniques. Is that true? Wanyan Nu was shocked. Initially, he was furious, but he remembered that young Master Yun Feng had gone to deal with Li Lingtian. He would only obtain the Great Burning Heavens manual after killing Li Lingtian. If they were to be killed by Li Lingtian, all these would be empty talk. Moreover, if young Master Yun Feng comprehended the Great Burning Sky scripture, the Yun family's ice and snow summoning technique would also be given to the Wanyan family to comprehend. Such a good thing naturally couldn't be missed. Of course, everyone here is watching. Does His Majesty not trust the Yun family? Isn't it just half a year? As long as I comprehend it, I will let anyone in the Wanyan family comprehend the ice summoning skill for half a year. Besides, I still have to deal with Li Lingtian. However, I'll need the help of others. After all, Li Lingtian's strength is too heaven-defying. I'll need to consume his true essence to see through his methods. Young Master Yun Feng said seriously, looking at Wanyan Nu. At the same time, he looked at the other experts, IO billion. There were 30 experts here, so it was 300 billion. Even if spirit stones were nothing to experts like them, they could never have too many spirit stones. Alright, I promise you that I will give you 100 martial saints. Martial Saint Qingmi will go with you. However, we have to kill Li Lingtian in the 14 kingdoms. We'll then take advantage of the situation to destroy the Qingxian kingdom's army. Wanyan Nu pondered for a moment and finally agreed. Alright, it's settled then. This is a memory stone. When the time comes, we won't have to worry about going back on our word with this evidence. Everyone, give me the 10 billion. Young Master Yun Feng said loudly. A memory stone appeared in his hand and he looked at the other experts. All the powerhouses had no choice but to take out their spiritual stones. It was only 10 billion. If they could kill Li Lingtian, they would earn back the 10 billion in no time. Young Master Yun Feng took the spirit stones and left. The hall was silent. Li Lingtian cultivated in peace in the Qingxian kingdom's imperial palace. The army outside had already been reorganized and would march out to destroy the 14 kingdoms at Li Lingtian's command. 10 days had passed since then. In 10 days, Li Lingtian's cultivation base had stabilized at the 6th heaven and his cultivation base was improving rapidly. The silver-winged flying dragon's injuries had already been healed in the divine dragon ring. Moreover, its cultivation base had been increasing continuously while cultivating in the dragon energy. Li Lingtian adjusted his cultivation base and divine power to their peak state before he left the room with a faint smile on his face. He had encountered too many things during this period of time, but his cultivation had also broken through, and his strength had increased greatly. Moreover, he had gained a lot of experience from fighting with a few super experts. This experience could not be bought with money. On this day, Li Lingtian brought Long De into the array. This was because he had gone to the Heavenly Fire mountain range recently. After he returned, he had to recuperate. After the final battle, he hadn't gone into the array. Although General Long had told him about the war god, he was still worried. This was because the war god was a trump card, and he couldn't afford to screw it up at a critical moment. If this war god was truly built, it would be almost invincible. It could even kill 5th or 6th sky martial saints. This subordinate greets young master. This subordinate greets young master D. Li Lingtian's arrival excited countless array masters and weapon refining grandmasters. All of them saluted Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian was undoubtedly a godlike existence in their hearts. He had witnessed Li Lingtian's strength some time ago. His knowledge of array Dao, alchemy Dao, and weapon refining was unmatched. How is it? Li Lingtian waved his hand and asked after the group had stood up. Looking at the war god that was 2,000 meters long, 500 meters wide, and 100 meters tall, Li Lingtian asked calmly. This war god was also silver in color, but it was emitting a destructive aura. Just from the aura alone, it was not something the war god of the past could compare to. The two of them were not on the same level at all. However, he did not know the true power yet because there were many final formations inside that he needed to deal with. Young Master, the war god has been completed. It can be inspected by Young Master. Grandmaster Weapon Refinement Wei Yuetian looked at Li Lingtian and spoke respectfully with a serious expression. To him, building the war god was a complete breakthrough. A breakthrough in the path of refining allowed him to truly witness the power beyond the path of refining. Therefore, when he was supervising the forging, he was always striving for perfection. There could not be the slightest flaw. Even if it was a little luster or a little pattern, he had to completely improve it and not leave behind the slightest flaw. Young Master, the construction of the war god is complete. Everything can be inspected by Young Master. The only thing left is the built-in formation. I need Young Master's guidance. I don't dare to make a move rashly. The Holy Array Master Wu Jizi replied respectfully. As a Holy Array Master, he understood Li Lingtian's strength even better. Everything had been completely resolved. Even all kinds of defenses had been set up, but the final attack and killing array had not been used. On the war god, there were a total of 108,000 arrays. These arrays were all cast by him, another pill saint, and all the array masters and geniuses. Alright, I'll go take a look. Li Lingtian's face revealed a satisfied expression as he nodded. He then walked toward the war god. Wu Lizi and Wei Yuetian led the way. Along the way, Wu Jizi told Li Lingtian about the power and construction of the array formation whenever they encountered it. He observed the change in Li Lingtian's eyes to see if there was any need to correct it. Whenever he encountered a refining job, Wei Yuetian would tell Li Lingtian about the problems he encountered. Li Lingtian told them how to solve the problems they encountered, how to correct them, and how to improve their power. But along the way, the war god was very satisfied. He was satisfied with the flaws he encountered. Chapter 668, The War God and the Array Path. Finally, Li Lingtian arrived at the depths of the war god. This place was also the core of the war god. The position of the killing array was also the place where the war god was controlled. The entire control room was 50 meters long and 20 meters wide. There were countless precise arrays inside. Those who could enter had to pass the special array test. Because outsiders couldn't enter this place. At the same time, all cultivation bases were suppressed. As long as there was even the slightest damage to the war god, there would be a destructive restriction that would directly imprison the person who damaged the war god. These restrictions and arrays were meant for the war god's safety, and Li Lingtian had to personally create them. Li Lingtian extended his divine consciousness alone and inspected all the restriction spells and array formations. In front of his array Dao, nothing could escape his eyes. As long as there was the slightest problem, he would be able to see it. There were 3,000 formations here and the formations were interconnected. Li Lingtian nodded in satisfaction after he finished inspecting the formations. He was satisfied with the formations here and cast a series of incantation gestures into them. Li Lingtian's aura could be sensed from the inside. As long as the war god posed the slightest threat, it would activate the automatic destruction mechanism. The destruction mechanism was not meant to destroy the war god but to destroy the person who was attacking the war god from within. The few of you, call those with talent over. Li Lingtian told Wenji and the others that he was going to cast the array here so they could learn from it. There were only 2 sacred array masters and more than 10 array masters. Since there was enough space here, he would let more people learn. This subordinate will call someone up now. Wu Jizi was extremely excited. He knew that Li Lingtian was going to create this array personally and he could learn from it. At the same time, he was extremely touched. An array like this was usually a secret of a holy array master and would not be shown to others. However, Li Lingtian allowed them to watch and learn. This meant that Li Lingtian regarded them as his confidants or at least trusted them. At the same time, he was happy for the other array Dao geniuses. It was indeed a blessing to be able to witness Li Lingtian's array formation. After saying that, he handed a list to an array master beside him and asked him to call them up according to the names on the list. Soon, more than 40 array masters and geniuses arrived on the war god. When they arrived, they were all extremely excited. Greetings, young Master D. The 40-odd martial emperor realm array grandmasters and geniuses bowed respectfully to Li Lingtian. Then, he quietly sat aside and watched Li Lingtian from afar, waiting for him to cast his array Dao and set up the array formation. The array Dao is the most mysterious Dao in the world. The world itself is a Dao, but we don't have enough control over it. The so-called formation is a structure between heaven and earth. It is also the most ordinary Dao. Only when the formation is used to guide the heaven and earth, when it is activated, that is the great Dao. Between the heaven and earth, all the elements return to their roots. The Tao of formations, the Tao of alchemy, the Tao of crafts, and all the other Taos are all within the 5 elements heaven and earth. As long as they don't exceed the 3 realms and 5 elements, then everything in this world will be restricted by the Tao of formations and the Tao. We cultivate the Tao, and when we master it, we are also a Tao. Li Lingtian was pleased when he saw all the geniuses doing their job obediently like obedient babies. These people were all overlords and experts in the outside world, but in front of him, they were extremely respectful, like obedient children. Even the 2 holy array masters listened with great interest. At the same time, a few geniuses and grandmasters revealed expressions of realization. This was because they were only specialized in array Dao and were restricted to a limit. They could not see outside at all. This was what it meant to be an onlooker. Now that Li Lingtian had explained the original reasoning, it was as if they had been enlightened and understood everything in an instant. It was as if there was a bright path in front of them. These principles were the most basic, but they had been forgotten and ignored by them. It was just like the 5 elements martial souls in this world. Most powerhouses valued some mystical martial souls and did not value the 5 elements at all. However, now that Li Lingtian had mastered the 5 elements, it was equivalent to controlling the world. For the array Dao, a small array is limited to a certain object, a large array is connected to the world, a divine array is connected to the world, and a formation is connected to the world. All the formations in the world can be connected to the world. Ancient divine arrays, and ancient forbidden divine arrays are all connected to the world. There are even formations that control the great Tao of heaven and earth in this world. Those are the experts who have transcended the 3 realms and 5 elements. The experts can turn the world upside down, burn the sky and boil the sea, and create their own world and space. Today, I will build a divine array and use the power of heaven and earth for my own use. Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and took out countless mystical materials. These materials were extremely precious and were specifically used to create a super divine array. These materials weren't used even when he was building the war god last time. Naturally, he had to use them for the strengthened version of the war god this time. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, everyone was shocked beyond words. In the past, according to Li Lingtian's description, they had only used small and large arrays. What was the concept of Li Lingtian creating a divine array now? At the same time, he also thought about the power of the war god after it appeared. It would definitely shock the world. Following that, Li Lingtian reminded the array masters of the things to take note of as he explained. At the same time, he quickly spread his 10 fingers and cast a series of hand seals. He continuously fused the materials into it. The fusion of the array formation and the materials shocked everyone. In the end, Li Lingtian shouted at Wu Jizi and the other two. The three of them joined forces to cast the most destructive offensive formation. Although they were both offensive formations, this one was a god-level formation that even surpassed a divine formation. After 3 hours, Li Lingtian and the other two were drenched in sweat. Fortunately, the array was activated. The array masters and geniuses were shocked beyond words. They were known as geniuses and grandmasters, but they were nothing in front of Li Lingtian. Hush! When Li Lingtian came to a stop, he was on the verge of collapse. However, an excited smile appeared on his face. 9 palaces 8 trigrams killing formation completed. He said this calmly, indicating that the war god had been successfully built. Everyone was excited. The success of the war god would shake the world. This 9 palaces 8 trigrams killing formation had a total of 1 main attack position, 108 and auxiliary attack positions. The main kill cannon could use the inner cores of Tier 7, Tier 8, and Tier 9 demonic beasts, as well as the inner cores of sea beasts. However, if he wanted to use the inner cores of Tier 10 demonic beasts, Li Lingtian would have to upgrade the array formation. The other auxiliary attack cannons could use the inner cores of 5th, 6th, and 7th rank demon beasts. As long as he had an inner core, an ordinary martial saint powerhouse would be instantly killed. Li Lingtian left the war god and left the array formation with Long De. He ordered his men to collect the inner cores of the demonic beasts and sea beasts, mainly the Tier 7 and Tier 8 inner cores. Before the war god was built, Li Lingtian had already instructed his men to prepare for it. However, now that the battle had begun, the monster beast inner core was being consumed at an extremely fast rate. Naturally, they did not want to run out of inner cores during the battle. At the same time, he was also collecting supreme-grade spiritual stones everywhere because the power of a supreme-grade spiritual stone and an 8th level inner core was twice as strong. With such power, even a 5th or 6th sky martial saint would be able to kill him. Young master, is the war god completed? Qjnjiling was puzzled when she saw that Li Lingtian had returned but did not see the war god take off. Technically speaking, the war god would appear in the sky after it was completed. He would have to experiment with it then. However, Li Lingtian had gone into the array formation specifically and did not see any movement from the war god when he returned. The war god has been completed, but we can't take it out now. We'll only take it out when the war starts. By then, we'll wipe out all 14 countries. Li Lingtian smiled. He knew that Qjnjiling and the others were curious. Of course, he wouldn't spread these things. However, Jingling and the others were his women, so there was no need to hide anything. I see. Big brother, how much stronger do you think the war god is this time? Ge patted his chest and put on a reassuring look. He looked so cute that the other girls laughed. The war god in the past could kill martial emperors. This time, the war god can kill martial emperors and martial saints in an instant. However, it requires a large amount of materials. Li Lingtian smiled as well. This little girl was getting more and more charming. After saying that, he returned to his room to rest. He had just built the final array formation and had indeed consumed a lot. He had to go back and rest for a while. However, when he entered the room, he said something. Pass down my order. Attack the 14 kingdoms as quickly as possible. By the time Li Lingtian finished speaking, he had already entered the room. The 14 countries weren't strong, so he had to kill them first. After unifying the 14 kingdoms, he would then fight against the other middle and upper kingdoms before unifying the kingdom. He did not need to think that the kingdom would send the other countries to fight Li Lingtian while the kingdom would clean up the mess. While Li Lingtian was resting, the order was passed down. The army of tens of millions marched toward the 14 kingdoms. The newly incorporated army was not placed at the forefront as it would affect the morale of the army. He had to put the strongest army at the front. That way, he would be invincible. The Xiaoyao Empire's army would be in a stalemate with the other armies. They would either not attack or they would be invincible. This was an imposing manner. Instantly, the kingdom was shocked. Although countless armies, kingdoms, and experts knew that Freedom King dynasty would attack the 14 kingdoms, they didn't expect it to be so fast. Even if it was within their expectations, it was still shocking to them. After all, it was the Qjng Xian kingdom that attacked the 14 kingdoms. Exploding. Seeking monthly votes, recommendation votes, book reviews, and tips. Chapter 669, Strengthened War God. Although the three legions didn't have as many people as before, their morale was much more stable. The morale of the army soared and the momentum of the army soared wherever they went. This time, all the troops left with a mood to vent their frustrations because the 14 kingdoms had joined forces to attack Qingxian. If not for Li Lingtian's appearance, Qingxian would have been destroyed. Li Lingtian did not even want to bother with the army's expedition. With the three legions present and countless martial saints, it would not be a problem for the entire army to attack a country. In this way, they would be defeated one by one. However, what he did not expect was that the millions of soldiers would encounter a powerful obstruction the moment they arrived at the middle-sized Mingfeng nation. Moreover, the other party was extremely powerful. There were more than 100 martial saints. Compared to the Qingxian kingdom's army, it was much stronger. This time, a martial saint directly went out to fight. Although they were not targeting the army, the martial saints in the enemy army could easily kill the martial emperors and martial saints of Qingxian kingdom. A medium-sized country with over 100 martial saints shocked martial Saint Ming Luo and the others. Hence, they quickly relayed the news to Qingxian and requested Li Lingtian's assistance. Li Lingtian had just recovered his true essence and was in the midst of cultivating when he received an urgent report of the battle at the front. What happened? Li Lingtian asked seriously as he looked at Tang Qingyue and the others in the courtyard. Under normal circumstances, no one would disturb him when he was cultivating. However, Tang Qingyue had called him out this time. Something must have happened. The army in front is in trouble. There are more than 100 martial saints from Mingfeng nation, and there are also many super martial saints. The army is heavily injured. Tang Qingyue briefly explained the voice transmission she had received before she turned to look at Li Lingtian. In fact, there was no need to explain the situation clearly to understand the situation ahead. They had either encountered a heaven-defying expert or the army of Moonsong Kingdom. If they encountered the army of the Moonsong Kingdom, Marshal Saint Ming Luo wouldn't send a message back. The only possibility left was that they had encountered a heaven-defying expert. Get ready, we're heading to Mingfeng Nation. Since that's the case, we can only unify all the countries. It's impossible to cultivate in peace now. Li Lingtian's eyes shone with a sharp glint as he spoke indifferently. His entire body was exuding a murderous aura. He had originally planned to cultivate in peace, but now it seemed that it was simply impossible. Since he was not allowed to cultivate, he would just let them destroy it. Li Lingtian instructed Tang Qingyue and the others to pack up while he walked into the array formation. This time, he would bring everyone with him to the war, and use the war god as well. Inside the array, Li Lingtian gathered the array master and the weapon refinery master together and told them his plan. Now that the war god was in use, there were 10 array masters and 10 forging masters maintaining the war god. The others stayed here to build the war god. The materials for the war god would be sent in continuously. However, they were free to go out. It was just that he had to come back after a certain period of time. He had to go through countless tests. Upon receiving Li Lingtian's order, Wu Jizi and the others took the initiative to stay behind as he was tasked to oversee the construction of the war god. For grandmasters like them, their entire life's interest was in arrays and crafting. The fame and fortune outside didn't matter anymore. They might as well make the war god even more perfect. Then, Wu Jizi found 10 formation path grandmasters and Wei Yuetian found 10 forging grandmasters. Li Lingtian personally boarded the war god and activated it. Boom! Boom! A series of explosions sounded, and the entire southern mountain city was shocked. This explosion was definitely not an attack from an expert. It was a terrifying and mysterious existence that brought an unknown threat to people. At this moment, a shocking pressure soared into the sky and spread throughout southern Peak Great City. Countless experts felt death and destruction in front of this pressure. What's that? What a powerful ship. What is this? It's actually so big. What a terrifying pressure. It's actually so powerful. What a powerful aura of death and destruction. I wonder what this is. Could it be some destructive treasure? In the sky, the silver figure of the war god appeared. It was 2,000 meters long, 500 meters wide, and 100 meters tall. This huge existence immediately shocked all the experts because they had never seen such a thing before. They did not know if this was an attack treasure or a flying ship. If it was a spaceship, there was no such powerful spaceship in this world. This silver monster was 100 times larger than the largest spaceship. Moreover, the aura of destruction and death was definitely not as simple as a spaceship. Just this aura alone could crush countless powerhouses below the martial emperor realm. War god, war god. War god, war god. Destroy the world and sweep the world. War god, destroy the world. War god, sweep the world. Inside the palace's array formation, all the array masters and blacksmiths were extremely excited as they watched the huge war god rise into the sky. This was because this was the war god that they had personally created. They were extremely happy. At first the war god was on the ground, so they couldn't see its true appearance. Now that it was in the air, this shocking aura and pressure shocked them. The experts cheered at the same time, and their auras were shocking. Outside the Imperial Palace, the experts of Southern Mountain City all knew the name of this silver monster. It looked like it was definitely a powerful and destructive treasure, a treasure of the army. Seeing such a powerful pressure being used in an army, it would be devastating. Is this the war god that young Master D created? Young Master D created a war god like this to sweep the world. It's indeed powerful. With such a killing weapon, what else can we resist? It's simply invincible. Yeah, with this war god, we'll be invincible. Everyone was discussing animatedly, their eyes revealing looks of admiration and envy. Only Li Lingtian was capable of creating such a treasure. There had never been such a powerful offensive treasure in the history of the divine martial continent. Who else could create such a treasure other than Li Lingtian? War god, war god. Sweep the Black Continent and unify the world. War god, destroy the world. War god, sweep the world. For a moment, countless experts and martial artists in southern Peak City cheered. The appearance of the war god signified the arrival of the carefree dynasty's true era of competition. In the past, young Master D had always kept a low profile. Now that the war god had appeared, it meant that the real war was about to begin. It was no longer the same as before. As long as Li Lingtian was around, he was invincible. Swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh. At this moment, the war god released a huge beam of light. The beam of light was empty. The pillar of light shone into the palace, and the endless spiritual qi between heaven and earth quickly condensed. Immediately, Tang Qingyue and the others entered the light pillar and quickly followed the light pillar towards the war god. They didn't need to fly at all. Moreover, the pillar of light carried a destructive aura. If they wanted to attack from the outside, they would simply be courting death. The light pillar was an array path created by Li Lingtian. It could bring people up from the ground. Even in the air, it was protected by the light pillar. Naturally, it would not be attacked. Seeing this scene, everyone was stunned. This was the first time they had seen such a magical thing. This was like a legendary mighty person's method, extremely magical. Even the array master and weapon refinement master inside the array were stunned by the light beam. They had personally created the array and the war god, but the last few arrays were cast by Li Lingtian. He did not expect Li Lingtian's array Dao to reach such a level that he could easily create a divine array. They had never heard of such an array formation before, so naturally, they had never seen it before. The more Li Lingtian behaved like this, the more everyone admired and respected him. Only the strong respected the strong and heroes cherished heroes. Tang Qingyue and the others disappeared from the war god and came to Li Lingtian's side. Li Lingtian immediately passed down an order. The war god let out another roar. The massive and heavy war god was like a moving mountain at this moment, but it tore through the void like a shooting star and disappeared into the horizon in an instant. At the edge of the horizon, one could still vaguely see the shattered space of destruction. What a fast speed! What terrifying power! Young Master Di personally led the army and swept the world. With young Master Di in the war god, no one in the world can stop them. Let's go and take a look. Even if we don't join the army of the Xiaoyao Empire, we can still contribute to the Xiaoyao Empire. You're right. Let's go. Seeing the war god disappear into the sky, all the powerhouses quickly followed the war god's aura. The more they got to the end, the more shocked these martial honors, martial emperors, and martial saints were. No matter how fast they sped up, they would never be able to catch up to the war god. When they realized this, they were all shocked. The war god was so terrifying, and it had such speed. There was nothing in the world that could stop it. On the war god, Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. This enhanced version of the war god, be it in terms of power, speed, or facilities, was much more powerful than the previous war god. Especially this speed, it was simply godly. It was not inferior to the speed of a martial emperor or a martial saint at all. When the time came for the war, he could use the war god to dominate the entire battlefield. It would definitely be a trump card. Moreover, the war god had not been activated to its maximum speed. If it was activated to its maximum speed, even a martial saint would be left far behind. A single war god was enough to dominate a kingdom. When the other war gods were completed, they could form a fleet of warships. Great wars were the victor's treasury, and endless wealth would roll in. The more wealth he had, the more war gods he could build. If that was the case, sweeping through the entire Xian continent wouldn't be empty talk. Starting today, 5 chapters a day, starting at 10 in the morning, every 2 days. The update was at 8 o'clock in the evening. The more monthly votes and recommendation votes you have, the more tips you give and the more rewards you get. Chapter 670, The Battle Begins. This war god is much faster than before. Ji stood beside Li Lingtian with a happy expression on her face as she spoke in a sweet voice. Even if he hadn't seen the true power of the war god, just the momentum and speed of the war god was something that the war god of the past couldn't compare to. Of course, the price of this war god is incomparable to the past. The previous war god could be built with 100 billion, but this war god requires 200 billion. Furthermore, the war god didn't dare to use the inner cores of 7th rank beasts in the past. Now, the war god can use 9th rank beasts. A level 6 inner core can kill a 1st Sky Martial Honored Realm Expert, a level 7 inner core can kill a 1st Sky Martial Emperor Realm Expert, and a level 8 inner core can kill a 1st Sky Martial Saint Realm Expert. By analogy, the more powerful the beast's inner core, the more powerful it will be. Therefore, this war god has already reached the level of using a 9th rank beast's inner core. It's just that we haven't encountered a 9th rank beast's inner core yet. Li Lingtian said calmly. The war god could use a tier 7 inner core to kill a martial supreme powerhouse, but it would not be able to kill a tier 6 demonic beast's inner core. The stronger the war god was, the stronger the inner core of the demon beast was, and the stronger the attack power. For the sake of the war god's power, he had added a lot of materials and put in a lot of effort. Now that the war god had appeared, he had to find the inner cores of 7th and 8th rank beasts. If he had a 9th rank inner core, it would be heaven-defying. I see. In other words, the war god is just a carrier. The more powerful the inner core and the power source, the more powerful it will be. GE nodded seriously and pretended to understand. However, if it was the old war god, even if it had an 8th rank demon beast inner core, it wouldn't be able to be used because the war god's carrying capacity wasn't enough. It wouldn't be able to unleash the power of the demon beast inner core. This is the reason why I created the enhanced version of the war god. Otherwise, I wouldn't have paid such a huge price. Li Lingtian smiled as he looked at the war god's speed and power with satisfaction. After paying such a huge price, it was only natural that they valued it. In this war, they had to rely on the war god to show off their might. They wanted to make the entire world tremble before the war god. The power of a single war god was something that even an army of 10 million soldiers wouldn't be able to take down. The war god's attacks could destroy the heavens and the earth. It was extremely fast and could attack a large area. Oh right, Ling Tian, since our army was stopped at Mingfeng Nation, it must be experts sent by the kingdom or other countries. What are your plans? Are you going to kill everyone like you did in the beginning? It doesn't matter if you kill those experts, but if they intentionally consume your true qi, even if you have the devouring light and the heaven-defying pill, it won't work. Tang Genji looked at Li Lingtian as she held his arm with her jade-like hand. Her delicate and perfect face looked at Li Lingtian as she asked. When the other girls heard Tang Genji's words, they agreed with her. Li Lingtian's opponents were countless powerhouses. Moreover, there were hundreds of martial emperors and hundreds of martial saints. Behind them, there were also a few super martial saints working together. If the other party did the same thing again this time, they would definitely arrange for many super experts to come. Otherwise, they would not dare to stop them at this place. Despite knowing how terrifying Li Lingtian was, they still dared to stop him. They must have thought of a way to deal with Li Lingtian, so they warned him. Of course I understand. I've killed countless martial emperors and martial saints several times, and they all know that. This time, the same strength came again. Naturally, they have follow-up methods. However, I'm not that easy to deal with either. I'll make them pay the price of blood. Li Lingtian said coldly with a murderous look. Although the war god needed level 7 and level 8 inner cores, they had quite a few level 7 and level 8 inner cores this time. They could still kill some martial emperors and martial saints. He was thinking of a way to print out the final expert, and he began to ponder in his heart. After a long time, a faint smile appeared in his eyes. Tang Genji and the others were also looking at the smile on Li Lingtian's face, wondering what he was thinking. However, Little White, Ge, and the other girls, Xianyuan Yingying, did not hold back at all from Li Lingtian as they asked him directly. Big brother Ling Tian, what are you thinking about? Is it that beauty called Tian Xian from the other day? Xianyuan Yingying looked at Li Lingtian and asked seriously with a stern expression. She was about to become Li Lingtian's wife. Although she did not mind having a few sisters, she would not allow Li Lingtian to seduce Hua Yin Dai before marrying her. Little girl, what are you thinking about? I'm thinking about how to defeat these experts and print out the true experts behind them. When the time comes, I'll kill them all in one fell swoop. Li Lingtian was stunned by Xianyuan Yingying's words and he almost burst out laughing. However, he had nothing to say. Who asked him to have so many wives? Although he loved them very much, having a few was already a lot. To be honest, he really didn't think about that Tian Xian. He didn't even remember that Tian Xian. Now that she thought about it, she was somewhat similar to Tang Genji's affectionate temperament. They were both iceberg-like beauties. It was just that the purple-clad young man called Tian-yi or something made him feel a little disgusted. After all, that appearance was too pretentious. Oh, so I was wrong. Then has Big Brother Ling Tian thought of a way to deal with those powerhouses? Xianyuan Yingying's face turned red, but she quickly recovered. As this concerned Li Lingtian and their comfort, she could not afford to be careless. When the others heard that Li Lingtian was trying to think of a way to deal with the war, they listened attentively to see if there were any loopholes in Li Lingtian's plan. This time, I'll pretend to be seriously injured and give them a vague signal. This way, we'll use the war god to attack. If the strong ones don't come out, we'll keep attacking. If the strong ones come out, we'll kill them. After all, I've been seriously injured these few times, and I don't have much time to heal. With the appearance of the war god, everyone thinks that I came out because of the war god, hee. Li Lingtian shared his thoughts before he chuckled evilly. Huangfu Yuyan and the others understood that someone was going to be fooled again. However, they were extremely happy because the one who was going to be fooled was not them, but the enemy. And, do we have the inner core of a 5th or 6th rank 8th order monster beast now? Shun Mei asked with concern. To kill a 5th Sky Martial Saint expert, one would need at least the inner core of a level 8 level 5 super demonic beast. They had been following Li Lingtian for a long time. Although Li Lingtian had the materials and inner core of a 7th or 8th rank demonic beast, he rarely encountered a demonic beast above 8th rank and 5th rank. Yes, we've found a few. There are 8 level 5 inner cores and 3 level 8 level 6 inner cores. This way, we can kill a few 5th Sky Martial Saints. Li Lingtian activated his divine consciousness and took out 11 level 8 inner cores. The inner cores were emitting a faint glow, but there was no demonic energy emanating from them. Li Lingtian had added a few formations into the inner core and sealed it up. This way, the power of the demonic beast inner core would not be lost. When it was used, its power would be even more condensed and powerful. After taking out the inner cores, he called Longda up and asked him to take away the 11 inner cores, the other grade 7 and 8 inner cores, and hundreds of top-grade spirit stones. If that was the case, he would not have to worry anymore. Moreover, Longda was on the war god, so he could control everything. He could focus on dealing with the strong. The war god flew at high speed, but the situation ahead was extremely dangerous. Ming Feng country was only a medium-sized country, but they suddenly had more than 100 martial saints and a powerful army. Behind them were the armies of the other countries. In an instant, Ming Feng country had tens of millions of soldiers and countless experts, and their morale was sky-high. In the Carefree Dynasty's army, although there were 3 legions and millions of troops, there were not as many martial saints as the other party. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others only had 50 to 60 martial saints, and the most powerful ones were only at the 4th sky of the martial saint realm. This kind of strength, compared to Ming Feng nation, the difference was too great. Although the war relied on the army, the number and strength of martial saint powerhouses were the ones that truly determined the outcome of the war. Commander, the enemy army seems to be about to counterattack. A 4th Firmament Martial Saint powerhouse said beside Martial Saint Ming Luo. He had submitted to everyone, but he was extremely fearful of Li Lingtian's strength. Moreover, he knew that this Martial Saint Commander Ming Luo had a powerful identity and was one of the most trusted people of young Master Di. Even if he was only at the 3rd sky of the Martial Saint realm, he would not dare to provoke him. For the past 2 days, Ming Feng country's army had been suppressing them in terms of momentum, but they did not counterattack, as if they were waiting for something. Moreover, the 2 armies were in a stalemate, and the Xiaoyao dynasty army did not dare to make a move at all. Now, looking at the situation of the other party, it seemed like they were going to counterattack. Seeing such a situation, he was naturally extremely worried. Scared? Even if we are to be destroyed, we must drag them down with us. Young master once said that a true expert must have the heart of an expert and must press forward courageously. Marshal Saint Ming Luo looked at the city in the distance and said indifferently. Her entire body was emitting a destructive aura. The aura of the third sky of the Marshal Saint realm was even more terrifying than the aura of the fourth sky. This was the aura that had been tempered in the great battle. Don't be afraid. Even if I die, I'll drag a few of them down with me. I'll kill those who are easy to bully. Otherwise, I'll suffer a loss. When the fourth sky Marshal Saint sensed Marshal Saint Ming Luo's aura, he was stunned and immediately shouted. His entire body emitted a terrifying aura as he looked at the army in the distance. The morale of Ming Feng country's army continued to rise. Hundreds of martial saints flew out from the sky. A great battle was about to break out. There are 3 more cards. Chapter 671, The Self-Destruct of a Martial Saint. The armies of both sides charged towards each other like a tide. Instantly, the entire world trembled in front of the 2 armies. The 3 legions were the main force, forming a shuttle formation. Their morale rose greatly, and they seemed invincible. The Divine Martial Army was in the middle, while the Divine Wind Army and the Divine Dragon Army flanked them. Millions of soldiers followed closely behind. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! Heaven-shaking shouts and earth-shattering attacks erupted. Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others floated in the sky. As long as the other party's Martial Saint did not fight, they would not attack. However, they all understood that this was impossible. The other party had brought out more than 100 Martial Saints. They were definitely going to make a move. Moreover, they were going to kill all the Martial Saints in the Xiaoyao dynasty. Since Li Lingtian killed all the Martial Saint powerhouses last time, we're not breaking the rules. We're not breaking the Iron Law. Do it. A 5th sky Martial Saint said to the Martial Saint beside him. Although he was only at the 5th sky of the Martial Saint realm, he was absolutely invincible in the current situation. However, he knew that if Li Lingtian were to come, he would be considered to be in the 5th heaven. However, in front of Li Lingtian, he was nothing but a dead man. They had not seen the heavenly fire mountain range, so they did not know the intensity of the battle. However, in southern Peak City, Li Lingtian had killed 3 5th firmament Martial Saints in a second. The 3 5th sky Martial Saints had died silently. They were probably the strongest Martial Saints in the Divine Martial Continent. They were both 5th heaven Martial Saints, yet Li Lingtian had easily killed 3 of them. What was a 5th heaven Martial Saint like him to them? Alright, let's do it. Kill them all before Li Lingtian arrives. Even if Li Lingtian is a god, the Carefree dynasty will be finished. Instantly, all the Martial Saint powerhouses followed suit. When they finished speaking, they had already flashed their bodies and attacked the other party. Instantly, hundreds of Martial Saints fought against more than 60 Martial Saints. Moreover, there were not many Martial Saints in the 4th heaven of the Carefree dynasty. Fighting with the other party was simply suicide. However, it was now too late for them to back down. They could not escape and could only persevere and wait for Li Lingtian's arrival. Rumble! Rumble! With a shocking explosion, the battle entered the stage of destruction. Do you want to kill me? I want you to try. A 1st sky of Martial Saint from the Carefree Empire looked at his comrades who were dying one after another. The violent aura around him surged, and his eyes turned blood red. The true essence in his entire body reversed, and the space immediately trembled. With his cultivation at the 1st sky of the Martial Saint realm, his power had reached the 3rd sky of the Martial Saint realm after his true origin was reversed. Moreover, the space was filled with the aura of destruction and death. When they saw this situation, the Martial Saints from both sides were shocked. Not good, he's going to self-destruct. Retreat quickly. This is crazy. Retreat quickly. Fuck, this lunatic. When the martial saints from Mingfeng nation saw the martial saints from Xiaoyao dynasty self-destructing with their true energy, they were all shocked. The self-destruction of a martial saint powerhouse was extremely terrifying. It was completely the epitome of destruction. If a first sky of the martial saint realm expert self-destructed, even a fifth or sixth sky martial saint realm expert would be seriously injured or killed. The most worrying thing for a warrior was that an expert would self-destruct in desperation. The power of self-destruction was not something a warrior could withstand. The martial saint powerhouses from Freedom King dynasty felt their blood boil when they saw that their companions were willing to self-destruct and vanish into thin air for the sake of a great battle. They also felt sad. At this moment, they were not experts, but comrades. The camaraderie between them was indescribable and incomparable. "Commander, please compensate my Zhang family. I'll sweep the world for young master. I'm willing to go through fire and water for young master." Ah! Boom! Rumble! Walla, walla! The first sky of the martial saint realm whose Jin Yuan was reversed shouted loudly. His body was covered in blood. As soon as he finished speaking, a destructive aura emitted from his body. Immediately, his body exploded and his entire person dissipated into thin air. However, the moment he disappeared, a destructive halo burst out between the sky and the earth. The halo pressed down on the Mingfeng martial saint and the army. In an instant, countless martial saints and martial emperors, as well as the army, disappeared. Within a radius of 100 miles, there was no one left. Even the army and experts nearby were heavily injured. The city wall was destroyed. One side of the city wall of the entire Mingfeng nation was destroyed. This time, hundreds of thousands of troops were destroyed. Hundreds of martial monarch realm experts and more than 10 martial saint realm experts disappeared in front of this self-explosion. The earth continued to collapse, the aura in the sky was strange, and the space shattered like a mirror. Kill, kill. Kill, kill. When the three legions saw that their martial saint experts were willing to self-destruct for the sake of victory, their blood boiled. Facing such a powerful and terrifying army, their morale was also earth-shattering. In an instant, the morale of the other side was suppressed. The army and millions of soldiers attacked. The battle started again. However, the martial saints did not make a move this time. That was because the martial saints in front had self-destructed when they were forced into a corner. If one of them self-destructed later, they would not be able to bear such a loss. Martial Saint Ming Luo looked at the situation and smiled. He was impressed by Li Lingtian's cohesiveness. Lieutenant Ling Tian could feel the destructive aura from afar on the war god. He was shocked. "Big brother, what's wrong?" Ji asked when he saw the change in Li Lingtian's expression. His little hand tugged at Li Lingtian's shirt. "A martial saint self-destructed. I wonder if it's the army of Xiaoyao dynasty or the martial saint of Mingfeng nation," Li Lingtian said seriously. In fact, he was already very confident that he was the martial saint of the Carefree dynasty. Since the other party was so powerful, there was no need for him to self-destruct. Only the martial saint of the Xiaoyao dynasty had self-destructed at the last moment to destroy the enemy. When he thought of this, he felt a little uncomfortable. These martial saints had all given up their lives for him. They had even given up the chance to reincarnate to self-destruct and kill their enemies. He should be from the Carefree Empire. Let's hurry over to avoid any mishaps. Huang Fu Yuyan spoke without hiding anything. After saying that, he looked at Li Lingtian. Although the war god was still tens of thousands of miles away from the front, it would not be long before it sped up. Li Lingtian did not say anything but waved his hand. Suddenly, the war god sped up and flew into the distance. The distance of tens of thousands of miles was covered in a moment. The massive silver monster was moving at an incredible speed. The silver ball of light floated in the air, filled with the danger of destruction. Humans were born to fear the unknown. The war god was undoubtedly a weapon that could destroy the unknown. What is this? What a terrifying spaceship. This is not a spaceship. What a powerful pressure. What is this? This is the war god built by the young master. The war god is here. Countless soldiers were stunned when they saw the war god in the sky. Even the martial saints were shocked. This war god was treated as a spaceship, but it was quickly rejected by a few martial saints. This was because a spaceship did not have such a powerful pressure, nor was it so huge. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others naturally recognized the war god when they saw its appearance. They also knew that Li Lingtian had created a stronger version of the war god. Many people knew about it as well. Naturally, they were excited at that moment. With Li Lingtian's arrival, the battle was won. War god, war god. War god, war god. Young Master D, young Master D. In their shock, the three legions and the Carefree Dynasty's army were excited when they saw Li Lingtian and the others. At the same time, Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others also mentioned that the gigantic silver monster was the war god. Below, cheers shook the sky. It was as if this was no longer a battlefield, but a backyard. This was because wherever Li Lingtian was present, victory was inevitable. Who self-destructed just now? Li Lingtian hovered in front of the war god with a calm expression as he asked. Young master, it's General Zhang Tiancheng. Marshal Saint Ming Luo replied respectfully with a sorrowful expression. Although death was inevitable in a great battle, self-destruction like this was still touching. Good, very good. Kill them all. Li Lingtian glared coldly at the nearly 100 Marshal Saint powerhouses before him with a sharp glint in his eyes. His entire body was filled with the aura of destruction. With a wave of his hand, his body flashed backward and returned to the war god. Suddenly, 108 silver pillars appeared in front of the war god. The pillars emitted a destructive aura. The unpardonable elites of Ming Feng were all shocked by the changes in the war god. Until now, they still didn't know what this war god was. However, now that he felt this destructive aura, his eyes revealed a shocked expression. Li Lingtian's arrival sent shivers down the spines of countless martial saints. They were well aware of Li Lingtian's reputation as a powerhouse who could kill a fifth firmament martial saint in seconds. Boom! 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 Rumble! Rumble! Instantly, the 108 pillars emitted 108 light shadows. The speed of the light shadows ignored the speed of space, and the space was directly penetrated by the light shadows. The aura of destruction carried death. In an instant, it crossed 100 miles and arrived in front of the super expert of Ming Feng country. Ah, ah, ah. Ah, ah, ah. Those who could scream proved that they were still alive, at least temporarily. However, those who did not scream had already disappeared. The shocking and destructive light shadows killed countless martial emperors and martial saints. Under the light shadow, none of the martial emperor powerhouses could withstand it, nor could they resist at all. Martial saint powerhouses also fell continuously. Seeing all of this, more than a dozen 4th or 5th Sky Martial Saint experts were shocked. The army was also destroyed by the aftermath of the war god. This destruction was like the destruction of the world. There was nowhere to hide, nowhere to escape, and he could only be instantly destroyed. Chapter 672, Battle of Dao Intent, 1. Looking at the devastating light figures that were destroying martial emperors and martial saints, the experts from Ming Feng country were all shocked to death. If this continued, even if the other party killed all of them, they would not have the slightest ability to resist. However, so what? They no longer had the slightest strength to resist. Boom! 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 The power that erupted from the light shadow continued to destroy martial emperors and martial saints. Martial emperors fell like rain one after another. When martial saints were hit, even if they did not die, they would be severely injured. Attack the war god. At this moment, a fifth sky martial saint saw the terrifying power of the war god and thought of a way. As long as the war god was destroyed, the attack of the war god would disappear. No matter how terrifying the war god was, it couldn't possibly be invincible. To a martial saint, any treasure could be destroyed. Moreover, there were so many martial saints and martial emperors here. A full-powered attack would be enough to destroy the war god. After hearing this voice, all the powerhouses scattered and surrounded the war god. The experts of Mingfeng nation were worried that the martial saints of the Xiaoyao dynasty would come to stop them. However, they did not expect that the army and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty would not come to stop them. Boom! 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 In an instant, countless martial saints and martial sovereigns had arrived not far away from the war god, dodging the war god's attacks. The destructive attack in his hand blasted towards the war god. However, just as the destructive attack landed on the war god emitted a destructive aura. The spiritual energy between heaven and earth quickly gathered. One halo after another formed, blocking all the attacks. Moreover, the halo also reflected every attack. Ah! Not good, we can't attack the war god. Don't attack the war god. A few martial saints saw the war god's defense and were dumbfounded. A war god with heaven-defying attacks actually had such heaven-defying defense. Was there any justice in this? Moreover, this defense also had an attack. What kind of monster was this? The war god continued to bombard the martial emperors and martial saints. From time to time, a destructive light would shoot down at the army. The power of the light shadow could even kill a martial emperor or martial saint instantly, let alone the ordinary army below. With one strike, everything within a radius of several miles disappeared. Terrifying screams and sounds of destruction mixed together, making this world seem like the end of the world. Li Lingtian, is this how you're going, Tawin? A faint voice sounded in the air. This voice was calm, but it suppressed all other voices. After the voice fell, a destructive pressure was emitted from the sky. The entire world became silent in the face of this pressure. All the powerhouses were flashing continuously, and the war god's light projection was still shooting out. A figure floated in the air, facing the war god's light projection without the slightest fear. Waves of light and shadow struck his body, but they were all blocked by a mysterious halo. Seeing this person, all the experts let out a breath of cold air. Martial Saint Qingmi. Martial Saint Qingmi, ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints. Martial Saint Qingmi is here. Li Lingtian is done for. With Martial Saint Qingmi here, Li Lingtian won't stand a chance. I didn't expect Martial Saint Qingmi to come. This is great. All the soldiers and experts looked at Martial Saint Qingmi with respect and worship. He was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints. The experts who could enter the 10 great martial saints were all extremely powerful. Moreover, Martial Saint Qingmi was ranked 5th. They didn't expect Martial Saint Qingmi to appear here. Martial Saint Qingmi, long time no see. Could it be that you also want to get involved in this muddy water? With a wave of Li Lingtian's hand, the war god's attack came to a halt. The war god's aura continued to emanate, suppressing countless powerhouses. Then, he looked at Martial Saint Qingmi who was in the air. He had seen Martial Saint Qingmi fight with Heaven Heart. Even though they had only exchanged one move, he could see how powerful Martial Saint Qingmi was. Martial saints who controlled the will of the Great Path were extremely powerful. He had to be careful now. Moreover, the 9th-ranked Tian Yin was already so powerful, let alone the 5th-ranked expert. As he spoke, his figure flashed and he was already 100 miles away from Martial Saint Qingmi. The two of them looked at each other from afar. Of course, I know about what happened in the Sky Fire Mountain Range. I didn't see Sir Ling Tian at that time. It was my mistake. Today, I was entrusted by someone. As long as Sir Ling Tian stops now, the kingdom will not pursue this matter. Marshal Saint Qingmi thought back to the time when he was in the Heavenly Fire Mountain Range. He didn't care about anyone. He didn't expect that such a terrifying existence was hidden in that place. If it wasn't for Heaven Heart, the two of them would have fought. As he spoke, he looked at Li Lingtian and kept sizing up Li Lingtian's cultivation base. The more he sized him up, the more shocked he became. Rumors had it that Li Lingtian was a marshal supreme, but he did not believe it. No matter how powerful a marshal supreme was, it was a completely different world from a marshal saint. A martial monarch realm expert wouldn't even have the chance to escape from a martial saint, let alone kill one. He had always suspected that Li Lingtian was a martial saint powerhouse and that he had cultivated some kind of cultivation technique to hide his cultivation base. However, after observing Li Lingtian for a while, he was certain that Li Lingtian was only a 6th heaven martial emperor and not a martial saint. It would be strange if he was not shocked by the situation. "Sir, do you think this is possible? I saw you display the will of the great path of water that day. I also cultivate the will of the great path of water. I want to see your will of the great path of water." Li Lingtian smiled and spoke in a casual tone. He did not treat his opponent as one of the 10 great martial saints at all. He had even ignored his identity as a martial saint. In everyone's eyes, Li Lingtian did not think highly of Martial Saint Qingmi at all. Now, he was challenging Martial Saint Qingmi. Was this a challenge? All of a sudden, all the troops and powerhouses were astonished. They knew how powerful the 10 great martial saints were. No matter how powerful Li Lingtian was, it was impossible for him to fight Martial Saint Qingmi, who was ranked 5th among the 10 great martial saints. Moreover, Li Lingtian had specifically stated that he wanted to fight Martial Saint Qingmi's water Dao intent. Both of them had the Dao intent of water, but Li Lingtian was only a martial supreme while Martial Saint Qingmi was a martial saint. Ha, ha. Sir Lingtian is indeed not simple. Since Sir Lingtian has already said it, I'll show you. Martial Saint Qingmi was shocked. If it was before, he would definitely be furious. However, Li Lingtian was not a simple person now. Since he dared to open his mouth, he must have some ability. Li Lingtian's actions made him even more eager. He wanted to see how Li Lingtian could kill so many martial emperors and martial saints and even supremacy Tian Yin. With that, he circulated his vital essence, and the light circle disappeared. The will of the great path of water circulated. The will of the Tao of water. As Martial Saint Qingmi's will of the great path of water circulated, the space became damp. It was as if the Milky Way was pouring down from the sky and the earth. It was as if the Milky Way was about to be destroyed. Although the water will of the martial saint did not see the shocking waves, he could feel the impact of destruction. Milky Way's fury. Martial Saint Qingmi's face was serious and solemn. Last time, she had used the will of the great path of water to fight against the golden flames of the sky. The golden flames were extremely terrifying. Although he didn't use that move to the extreme and didn't use his trump card, he understood how terrifying the sky screen golden flame was and was even more afraid of the Tian family. Therefore, he gave up on the fight for the empty pearl. Now, Li Lingtian was openly challenging the will of the Tao of water. It was a provocation to challenge Li Lingtian's strength. However, he had no choice but to agree, because his water Dao intent was the most powerful attack, and it was also his original attribute. Since Li Lingtian had witnessed his prowess, he was confident that he would be able to fight against him. He did not expect Li Lingtian to be a fool. Otherwise, he would not have become a heaven-defying powerhouse. Thinking of this, he used his most terrifying trump card. This trump card was equivalent to a top-notch heaven-grade divine power, or even more powerful. When the Milky Way's fury was unleashed, 9 unparalleled silver celestial rivers appeared between heaven and earth, pouring down from the 9 heavens. Furthermore, the 9 heavenly rivers did not bombard Li Lingtian directly. Instead, they converged from all directions and spiraled in the sky like a 9 heavens true dragon. The might was shocking. This destructive pressure made the world tremble. Countless experts and armies could only land and look at the situation in the sky in shock, resisting the destructive pressure. Boom! Boom! Rumble! Walala! Before the attack even began, the world was constantly destroyed. Countless armies were destroyed, and the earth collapsed. Regardless of whether it was the Xiaoyao Empire's army or the Ming Feng Nation's army, they were all being destroyed at this moment. When an expert was enraged, the world would be shocked. In front of the 10 great martial saints, they didn't care which country you were from because their methods could turn the world upside down. They didn't care about your life or death at all. This was the ironclad law of the divine martial continent. They were worried that the war between martial saints would destroy countless innocent warriors. Li Lingtian's eyes were filled with excitement as he looked at martial Saint Qingmi. The will of a martial saint was much stronger than his. The difference was too great. The will of the Tao of water. Li Lingtian did not dare to delay any further as he looked at martial Saint Qingmi's water Tao intent. The other party's will of the great path of water was heaven-defying. Although his will of the great path of water could not compare to the other parties, it still had other advantages. The corners of his mouth twitched as he muttered to himself. The true essence in his entire body also circulated. His eyes flashed with excitement and battle intent. Immediately, a terrifying will of the great path of water erupted in all directions. This will of the great path of water also came from the world. Unlike martial Saint Qingmi, whose water Tao intent was too pure and was completely water-based, Li Lingtian's water Tao intent was built on the 5 elements. Even if he didn't use the will of the 5 elements, he could still automatically form the world. When he used any kind of will, the other 4 kinds of will would explode. The power of the 5 kinds of will would fuse into one kind of will. Chapter 673, Martial Saint Qingmi, Defeated. Between heaven and earth, the will of the great path of water emerged. Moreover, there were 2 wills of the great path of water, but the 2 wills of the great path of water collided with each other. Martial Saint Qingmi's water Tao intent carried a destructive aura while Li Lingtian's water Tao intent carried the 5 elements of heaven and earth. Icebound 10,000 mile. 11 Li Lingtian looked at the 9 heavenly rivers pouring down from the void with a grave expression. He circulated his vital essence and did not dare to be careless. The extreme of the will of the great path of water was the will of the great path of ice. However, there was no such thing as the ice Tao intent in this world. Only Li Lingtian had the ice soul martial soul which had mutated the water Tao intent and thus formed the ice Tao intent. The world quickly froze. Within 10,000 miles, it had become a glacier. The speed of the 9 heavenly rivers was not affected at all because the water will was unleashed by a martial saint's super powerhouse. Even if the water will was not as powerful as Li Lingtian's, Li Lingtian had lost in terms of cultivation. Ice flame. Ice soul martial soul. Ice vitality divine fist. The 9 heavenly rivers merged together and surged toward Li Lingtian. The formless will of the great path carried the trajectory of heaven and earth. Li Lingtian's Tao intent of water did not have any moves, but it contained the icy frost flame. Immediately, the will of the great path of water changed even more. He used his ice spirit martial soul and the ice spirit divine fist that had entered the transcendent state. He punched at the silver river. Instantly, the world fell silent. The Milky Way surged toward Li Lingtian in a strange manner. It did not have a shocking might but it carried a destructive aura. Li Lingtian's fist shadow was accompanied by the chilly air of heaven and earth. It was accompanied by wisps of light as it hurtled toward the Milky Way like a group of shooting stars. All the experts looked at the 2 attacks in the air. The battle of wills, the battle of super experts, was at this moment. He didn't know how much time had passed. Was it an instant, a second, or a century? In the eyes of all the experts, they no longer remembered. They did not dare to make a sound or break this silence, afraid that after the silence, the world would be destroyed. However, the two attacks had already collided. Rustle, rustle. Cha-cha, cha-cha. Huff, huff, huff. In the air, the two attacks collided as if they were paying attention to each other, but there was no earth-shattering explosion as expected. There was only a slight sound. Even such a tiny sound was like thunder in the ears of countless armies and super experts. Kacha. Rumble. Ah, ah, ah. Finally, an explosion sounded, but this explosion did not come from the bombardment of two attacks. Instead, it came from the shattering of space, the collapse of the ground, and the continuous reversal of the earth. Countless armies turned into ashes in the blink of an eye, disappearing from this world forever. Every time there was an explosion, tens of thousands of troops, even martial emperors and martial saints, would be destroyed in these explosions. Li Lingtian and Martial Saint Qingmi hovered in the air with a glint in their eyes. The two of them did not take a step back. The space around them trembled and shattered, and a destructive aura spread out. Pft! Pft! Li Lingtian and Martial Saint Qingmi spurted blood at the same time as their faces turned pale. The confrontation between will and power was not a collision of power. Martial Saint Qingmi's cultivation base was already at the fifth heaven of the super martial saint realm, while Li Lingtian's cultivation base was only at the sixth heaven of the martial emperor realm. The difference between the two was like heaven and earth. However, Li Lingtian's water Dao intent had mutated and completely surpassed it. The gap between the two of them had narrowed quite a bit. In the confrontation of destruction and the confrontation of will, both of them were injured quite badly. Boom! Boom! At this moment, the world could no longer be quiet. The two attacks completely exploded. The sky continued to distort and shatter, and countless armies and experts continued to dissipate. Host. In the sky, Martial Saint Qingmi disappeared, leaving only a faint voice. It came quickly and left even faster. In the blink of an eye, this voice disappeared. If not for the great battle that had just taken place, tens of thousands of troops would have been destroyed. They would not have known that there had just been a battle of wills between super experts here. Li Lingtian was momentarily stunned as he hovered in the air before a faint smile appeared on his face. The collapse and shattering of heaven and earth only stopped after a full 5 minutes. At this moment, the Xiaoyao Empire's army had lost 1 million men, but compared to the losses of Mingfeng country, it was nothing. Mingfeng nation's army had lost over 3 million people, and countless supreme experts had fallen. In the sky, the super martial saints and experts of Mingfeng country had ugly expressions. Among the 10 great martial saints, Martial Saint Fengyun, who was ranked 8th, was defeated, and the 9th-ranked Tian Yin was killed. Now, Martial Saint Qingmi was defeated with one move. They were all defeated by Li Lingtian alone. Now that Li Lingtian had appeared, they did not have many powerhouses left. The situation was extremely grim. You guys wait at the side. Li Lingtian looked at the super powerhouse in the distance as he spoke indifferently. His figure flashed and he returned to the war god. After returning to the war god, Tang Qingyue used a silk handkerchief to wipe away the blood at the corner of Li Lingtian's mouth. However, Li Lingtian's gaze was now fixed on the sky as his expression grew more and more solemn. Big brother Lingtian, what's wrong? Tang Zimeng asked softly when she noticed the change in Li Lingtian's expression. Li Lingtian should have been elated after defeating Martial Saint Qingmi in a great battle. However, his expression had turned grave. Something's wrong. Be careful. A true expert has arrived. Li Lingtian spoke softly so that only the few people around him could hear him. Huangfu Yuyan and the rest were stunned when they heard Li Lingtian's words before their expressions turned grave. A true powerhouse that Li Lingtian could call was not simple. Furthermore, there was not the slightest change between heaven and earth. Even the other martial saints and powerhouses could not detect it, so naturally, they could not detect it either. However, Li Lingtian was a holy array master who had more control over space. Naturally, he knew of the other party's existence. The powerhouses from Mingfeng Nation were curious when they saw that Li Lingtian had no intention of taking action. However, they dared not speak at this moment. Whoosh! The sky was originally cloudless, but when a breeze blew, the aura in the sky became strange. Moreover, the sky was covered with dark clouds, as if a storm was about to come. Boom! There was a muffled thunder, but it didn't look like rain. The dark sky was getting darker and darker. All the experts and armies could see that this was not a natural change, but man-made. It was just that he did not know what kind of expert actually had such a magical method to use such a method without anyone noticing. Come out. Li Lingtian looked up at the sky and his expression turned calm. He shouted at Kong at a moderate pace, as if he had seen through the other party's tracks. However, after a long time, there was still no change. No one answered or appeared. It was as if no one else existed in this space. Swoosh! Seeing that the person in the space had yet to come out, Li Lingtian's lips curled into a strange smile. With a flash, he disappeared from where he was and disappeared into the air. However, a series of muffled sounds could be heard in the air. The world was constantly changing. Sometimes it was windy and rainy, and sometimes it was scorching hot. Countless armies and experts were injured and killed in the change of space. They were all shocked when they saw the change of space. This was no longer a battle, but a miraculous method of a super mighty figure. Bang! With an explosion, two people appeared in the space. One of them was Li Lingtian while the other was also a young man. However, his face was pale and there were traces of blood at the corner of his mouth. You're still too inexperienced to play with formations in front of me. You should be thinking of using the array Dao to destroy me. Unfortunately, you won't have the chance because you're facing me, not some random Tom, Dick, and Harry. Li Lingtian hovered in the air as he stared coldly at the young man. The young man was casting a mystical array just now in an attempt to kill Li Lingtian with it. However, he did not expect Li Lingtian to be a terrifying array master. Young Master Yunfeng. The number one genius of the Yun family. Young Master Yunfeng is here as well. I didn't expect young Master Yunfeng's array Dao to be broken. Young Master Yunfeng is the number one genius of the kingdom, and his talent in formations is incomparably high. I didn't expect that he would be defeated. However, young Master Yunfeng is at the peak of the fifth sky of the martial saint realm. The two of them can be compared. Countless experts from Mingfeng Nation recognized this young expert. At the same time, they looked at young Master Yunfeng with envy. Not only Mingfeng Nation, but even the countless experts of Freedom King Dynasty recognized young Master Yunfeng. For a moment, countless experts discussed animatedly. However, the envy and discussion at this moment was undoubtedly the greatest humiliation for young Master Yunfeng. This was because he had easily lost to Li Lingtian in array Dao. Yet, these powerhouses were still praising him. Was this not equivalent to humiliating him? Are you also an array Dao master? Young Master Yunfeng looked at Li Lingtian in shock. That was because he had just cast a magical array to conceal himself in space. In his opinion, even a sixth heaven martial saint powerhouse would not be able to discover him. However, Li Lingtian had easily seen through him. Moreover, Li Lingtian had completely destroyed his array formation after he went up, causing him to suffer serious injuries. He was a superb array master and a holy array master. However, he did not expect Li Lingtian to be able to break it so easily. In this way, his plan was ruined. Rumor had it that Li Lingtian was so powerful in Moonsong Kingdom that even Supremacy Tianyin was killed. Although he was powerful and even more powerful than Supremacy Tianyin, he dared not fight Li Lingtian recklessly. The reason why he was fighting Li Lingtian was because of the array formation. No matter how powerful an expert was, they could only surrender in front of the array. However, he did not expect Li Lingtian's array Dao cultivation to be much stronger than his. The two of them were on completely different levels. Now, he was getting more and more afraid. If Li Lingtian were to use array Dao to deal with him, he would not have the slightest confidence. Chapter 674, Clone of the Snow Goddess. Since you want to deal with me, you should first inquire about me. A faint smile appeared on Li Lingtian's face as a hint of disdain appeared in his eyes. He felt that something was amiss, but he could not pinpoint what was amiss. From the beginning, he had felt threatened. However, after breaking young Master Yunfeng's array Dao, he still felt threatened. He just didn't know what the threat was. The more it was like this, the more dangerous it was. However, he didn't show it at all because the more relaxed he was, the clearer the potential threat became. He didn't want to let the potential threat sense his attention. When the time came, the other party would let down his guard, which would be beneficial for him to get rid of this threat. Good, very good. It's already good enough for a mere martial emperor to have such strength. However, it's not a big deal for you to break my array. You will also die. Young Master Yunfeng said coldly. His expression changed and an evil smile appeared on his face. His aura became strange, and his eyes turned blood red. Fallen. You said you would kill me in front of me. Are you joking? Li Lingtian was shocked. The threat was really from young Master Yunfeng. He could not find any way to threaten him. Young Master Yunfeng's cultivation was at the peak of the fifth heaven, which was similar to martial Saint Qingmi. However, if one did not enter the 10 great martial saints, they would definitely not be bothered to enter the 10 great martial saints. However, even a fifth heavenly layer peak great perfection martial saint would not be able to defeat him. Li Lingtian was getting more and more curious about what kind of threat it was. You have the will of the great path of water. It seems to have become the will of the great path of ice. I'll show you what the strongest ice will of the way is. The smile on young Master Yunfeng's face grew wider as if something had succeeded. Li Lingtian could not help but speculate about this smile. After saying that, the aura around his body skyrocketed. The originally normal temperature of the sky instantly turned cold. Ice summoning spell. Young Master Yunfeng roared, and his palm kept making mysterious and obscure hand seals. At this moment, he also performed a magical spell. With the appearance of the magic art, there was a riot between heaven and earth. In the sky, a pressure that could destroy the world appeared. This pressure seemed to come from ancient times. Li Lingtian looked at young Master Yunfeng and saw that he was in extreme pain. It seemed like it was too strenuous for him to cast the frost summoning spell. In other words, it was not something a warrior sage like him could cast. However, when he saw this situation, the sense of threat in his heart really came out. This threat came from the pressure in the sky. It was also the terrifying power displayed by young Master Yunfeng. Boom! With a shocking explosion, a pitch-black hole was torn in space. In the pitch-black hole, a world of ice and snow appeared. That world of ice and snow seemed to be from ancient times, and it was unknown how far it was. The destructive cold air froze the entire space. At this moment, a tall ice sculpture walked out from the pitch-black hole. This ice sculpture was 100 meters long, and it looked like a goddess. However, this goddess-like statue exuded an aura of death and destruction. The cold air was enough to destroy the entire world. The ice sculpture streaked across the endless void in an instant and floated in the air. There was no trace of human chi on its entire body. It was completely a block of ice. Snow Goddess. All the warriors recognized her. She was the legendary Snow Goddess. However, this ice sculpture was not the real Snow Goddess, but a statue of the Snow Goddess. Lowly human, why did you summon me? The statue looked at young Master Yunfeng, who was casting a spell, coldly and said without any warmth. This voice made everyone tremble. The already frozen space became even colder at this moment. Goddess, I hope you can kill the enemy in front of you. Young Master Yunfeng was excited when he saw the statue of the ice goddess. However, when he saw the ice statue's eyes, he couldn't help but tremble. He then told the ice goddess what he wanted to do. Pointing at Li Lingtian, the corners of his mouth curled into an evil smile as if he could see Li Lingtian being killed. Do you need to summon my clone to kill a mere human? The ice sculpture shifted her gaze to Li Lingtian. Sensing his weak aura, she asked young Master Yunfeng with a tinge of anger. In her eyes, Li Lingtian's martial emperor cultivation was too weak. However, the moment her gaze left Li Lingtian, she seemed to have noticed something and exclaimed in surprise. I didn't expect it to be you. The ice sculpture's eyes were filled with shock as it coldly said. It was me in the first place. Why? Are you not going to make a move now? Otherwise, you won't have a chance in the future. Li Lingtian replied nonchalantly with a faint smile on his lips. His eyes were fixed on the ice sculpture and he appeared nonchalant. He was completely unbothered by the terrifying existence before him. The cultivation of this ice sculpture couldn't be seen at all, but the cold air could freeze the world for thousands of miles. When he felt this chill, he was shocked. When he saw the ice sculpture, he understood something. The ice sculpture in front of him was just a split soul of the snow goddess's clone, which meant that it only had 1/1000th of the snow goddess's power and consciousness. However, he never expected that young Master Yunfeng would summon someone he knew. Although he did not know her, he knew her in his previous life. Now, he had even less expected to be recognized. Li Lingtian did not let his guard down even after witnessing such a simple attack. The snow goddess's power was simply heaven-defying. Even if it was just a wisp of a soul, it was not something that a martial saint in this world could withstand. One had to know that the snow goddess was a mighty figure in the upper realm. Her strength was shocking, and she was a god that was like an overlord. All the power would only require a simple strike. As the 9 Suns sacred flame was unleashed, the limitless sacred flame also appeared in the air. The 2 balls of flames attacked the icy chi at the same time. Immediately, the world trembled. In an instant, the 9 Suns sacred flame collided with the ice and snow chi, and a pitch-black hole appeared in space. The 9 Suns sacred flame trembled continuously before it was frozen. The power of the ice sculpture was immense. Even if the 9 Suns sacred flame was stronger than the frost chi, Li Lingtian's cultivation was still miles away from the snow goddess. Naturally, he could not withstand the ice sculpture's attack. Just as the 9 Suns sacred flame was frozen, the limitless sacred flame had already struck the icy chi. The limitless holy flame was slightly stronger than the 9 Suns sacred flame. The 9 Suns sacred flame had blocked some of the ice and snow chi earlier, so the power of the ice and snow chi had decreased. Coupled with the attack of the limitless holy flame, the ice and snow chi had weakened by more than half. When the ice sculpture saw that Li Lingtian's 9 Suns sacred flame and limitless holy flame had been destroyed, an unnoticeable smile appeared in its eyes. However, Li Lingtian managed to catch that smile. At the same time, Li Lingtian's lips curled into a faint smile. Kacha! A slight sound rang out in the air. The snow goddess's eyes revealed traces of shock, but more of it was anger. Chapter 675, Sword Ray Duel, 1. All the experts looked at the changes in space in confusion. However, when they saw the ice and snow chi disappear, their expressions changed. This was because even though the ice and snow had frozen the 9 Suns sacred flame and the limitless sacred flame, a ball of purple ice flame was burning on top of the ice and snow. The ice and snow aura also quickly disappeared at this time. It did not really disappear, but was swallowed by the ice flame. The smile on Li Lingtian's face grew wider as he looked at the ice sculpture. You should go back. I'll come and see you again, he said indifferently as if he was joking with a friend. All the powerhouses were stunned as they did not know what Li Lingtian was talking about. Li Lingtian sounded like he was talking crazy. After all, the snow goddess was a godlike existence. Li Lingtian was just an ordinary martial emperor, yet he dared to say such words. You're quite capable this time. It's best if you can still be so arrogant the next time I see you. The ice sculpture glared coldly at Li Lingtian before turning to young Master Yunfeng in the distance. Without saying another word, it flew into the void. In the end, it completely disappeared from the world as if it had evaporated. The cold air also disappeared, and the world recovered. If not for the fact that everyone had seen the ice sculpture, they would not have thought that a terrifying true god avatar had descended to the lower realm and was defeated by Li Lingtian. Alright. Now it depends on your ability. Li Lingtian waited for the ice sculpture to disappear before he shifted his gaze to young Master Yunfeng. This young Master Yunfeng had actually summoned the clone of the snow goddess. He was indeed not simple. No wonder it could pose such a strong threat to him. If it was anyone else, they would have been killed by the clone of the snow goddess long ago. The clone of the snow goddess had shown mercy in the attack just now. If she had really used the almighty art, his current cultivation and strength would not have been able to take her down. He had nothing to say when he met someone he knew. If it was anywhere else, the clone of the snow goddess would definitely not attack him. However, the clone of the snow goddess had been summoned, so he had no choice but to attack. Since the ice summoning spell can't kill you, you're quite capable. I have no enmity with you, so there's no need to fight anymore. It's better to have one more friend than one more enemy. Young Master Yunfeng had never thought that his Yun family's ice summoning spell would be broken in such a strange way. Summoning a clone of the snow goddess was extremely difficult. However, he did not expect Li Lingtian to defeat it in such a manner after summoning it. It was a fact that he could not accept. He could still accept being defeated by Li Lingtian. However, Li Lingtian was not the one who defeated him. Even if he was defeated, the snow goddess clone would kill him regardless of the consequences. This was probably the first time he had seen someone leave like this. Li Lingtian's methods were mysterious and powerful. He no longer had the confidence to fight Li Lingtian. Hush! All the soldiers and experts had never thought that a powerful figure like young Master Yunfeng would say such shameless words. This was too embarrassing. The army of Mingfeng nation felt embarrassed and was willing to not know this young Master Yunfeng. Not bad, not bad. Li Lingtian looked at young Master Yunfeng in astonishment. As a powerhouse, he was able to do this. How scheming was he? The more it was like this, the more he couldn't be left alive. He had to be killed. He didn't like scheming people, lest they leave behind future troubles. Everyone looked at Li Lingtian, not knowing what he meant by not bad. Tang Qingyue and the rest understood Li Lingtian's intentions. They knew Li Lingtian's character well. Young Master Yunfeng was doomed at this moment. Since you've come, you've already treated me as your opponent. You wanted to kill me earlier, but now that you can't kill me, you want to forget about it. Is there such a simple thing in this world? Do I agree to it? Therefore, it's best not to have any other thoughts. Bring out your strongest ability so that you won't regret it later. Li Lingtian had no intention of letting young Master Yunfeng go. If it were any other powerhouse, they would have let him go after hearing such words. However, those people were not Li Lingtian. To Li Lingtian, anyone who threatened him would be his opponent and he would kill them if they were his opponent. However, there were exceptions. Prince Wind's Spirit, Marshal Saint Fengyun, and Marshal Saint Qingmi. These people were all relatively straightforward people and were worth letting go. However, he couldn't let this young Master Yunfeng off. After saying that, he circulated the true essence in his entire body, and his eyes became even colder. He stretched out his hand, and a stream of light flashed between his eyebrows. A crystal-clear long sword appeared in front of him. Holding the long sword in his hand, the aura of his entire body soared, instantly turning into a sharp sword intent. His aura also became sharp, like a sharp sword standing proudly between heaven and earth. Frost Heavenly Sword, 12 Fatal Moves. Young Master Yunfeng knew that Li Lingtian would not let him off, so he did not say anything else. Instead, he circulated his true essence to the maximum. The icy cold aura continued to solidify in the air. After which, he extended his hand and a long sword appeared in his palm. Immediately, a destructive pressure continued to crush the space. It was also a Supreme Saint artifact, but its pressure was no different from the Tianyu sword. After the Ice Frost Heavenly Sword appeared, young Master Yunfeng did not hesitate at all. He displayed the most powerful 12 killing moves, and the space was filled with killing intent. The Will of Death was even more terrifying than Li Lingtian's sword will because the Frost Heavenly Sword itself was a powerful sharp sword. It carried a chilling aura and its power was terrifying. The destructive sword Qi carried a cold air. This corrosive power was more terrifying and vicious than sword intent. 12 frost sword shadows crisscrossed in the air and quickly intertwined together, forming a destructive frost sword that was 100 meters long. The frost sword illuminated the entire sky. Countless armies felt death and destruction in front of this light. Heaven-destroying sword formation, Heaven Sword Unity. Li Lingtian was shocked when he saw how terrifying the other party was. Young Master Yunfeng's cultivation was definitely not inferior to Martial Saint Qingmi's. On the contrary, he was much stronger. He actually didn't fight for fame and fortune. Such a person was indeed terrifying. He didn't dare to hesitate any longer. The sword intent in his entire body erupted, and the world entered the world of sword intent. With him as the center, the sky within 1,000 miles was filled with destructive and domineering sword intent. The formation of the sword intent caused the air to shatter continuously. The Tianyu sword trembled rapidly. Li Lingtian's eyes shone with a bright light as he waved his hand and the Tianyu sword burst out with a 100-meter-long sword beam. The sword light was destructive. Even if the sword light was not unleashed, countless huge holes had already been torn in space. Li Lingtian cast a hand seal and his entire body vanished, completely merging with the sword radiance. The moment he fused with the sword ray, the world kept trembling and collapsing. The sky was also covered in dark clouds, as if the end of the world had arrived. What a terrifying Heaven Sword Unity! This is the legendary Heaven Sword Unity, merging oneself into the sword light. I wonder who can withstand this sword. I wonder which is more powerful, young Master Yunfeng's 12 fatal moves or young Master Di's Heavenly Sword Unity. After this sword, the victor will be decided. For a moment, all the troops and experts were shocked and they saw the two destructive sword lights in the sky. The previous showdown of the water will and the current showdown of the sword energies were both peak battles. Moreover, they did not know who was stronger. Rip! In the air, two sword lights slashed down at each other. However, at that moment, Li Lingtian's Heavenly Sword Unity sword intent vanished. What followed was a sword aura, a sword radiance that carried the force of heaven and earth. The sword light revolved according to the trajectory of heaven and earth. It did not directly attack the sword light of the 12 fatal moves in a straight line. Young Master Yunfeng's expression changed drastically when he saw this sword power. He spat out a mouthful of blood. He thought that he was a peerless genius, but after witnessing Li Lingtian's various mighty methods and heaven-defying talents, he finally understood that he was nothing but a piece of trash in front of Li Lingtian. In his extreme anger, he spat out his heart's blood. Moreover, the 12 peerless styles were also affected by this. The sword light trembled. It no longer had the momentum and destruction it had at the beginning. Although it was immediately adjusted, its power was much weaker than before. Boom! The two destructive sword lights ignored the speed of space and fiercely slashed down. Instantly, the two destructive sword lights exploded, and the sky was filled with destructive energy. However, at the center of the explosion, a thin sword light shot forward. Kacha! Rip! Tisk! In the air, the thin sword light cut through the sword light of the 12 fatal moves and directly slashed toward young Master Yunfeng. The sword light directly cut through young Master Yunfeng's protective barrier. A tearing sound appeared in the space, and then the sword light disappeared. When it reappeared, the sword light had already penetrated young Master Yunfeng's body and appeared behind him. Young Master Yunfeng was startled. Fear and despair appeared in his eyes. Gradually, his eyes turned ashen. Ah! A scream resounded through the world. It was young Master Yunfeng's last scream and also his last sorrowful cry. The frost heavenly sword slowly fell from his hand. Young Master Yunfeng's body was quickly torn into pieces. Endless sword qi and sword will emerged from his body. These sword qi and sword will were unleashed by Li Lingtian's heavenly sword unity. Phew! In the sky, as young Master Yunfeng was destroyed, the sword ray that pierced through young Master Yunfeng transformed into a figure. That figure was Li Lingtian, who had merged with the sword ray. Li Lingtian was holding the Tianyu sword in his hand with a cold expression on his face. Looking at the frost heavenly sword that fell from the sky, he grabbed it with one hand and the frost heavenly sword appeared in his hand. Chapter 676, The Eve of the Final Battle. Swoosh! When the frost heavenly sword appeared in Li Lingtian's hand, he activated his divine consciousness. His spirit sense soon found young Master Yunfeng's storage bag, but he didn't expect that young Master Yunfeng's storage treasure wasn't a storage bag, but a space ring. The infinite space ring lay in Li Lingtian's hand as a faint smile emerged on his lips. A person who could possess an interspatial ring was definitely not simple. After coming to this world, he had encountered countless super experts, but they all had storage bags and no interspatial rings. Without any hesitation, several seals appeared and sealed the space ring. This wasn't him making a mountain out of a molehill. After all, people who used interspatial rings weren't simple. If this young Master Yunfeng had other identities, he would be in trouble. The other powerful beings would also find him through this ring. Therefore, sealing it would cut off other connections and make it difficult to find him. However, he also understood that he had killed young Master Yunfeng in front of all the armies and experts. There was no need to spread the news. Everyone else knew. He put away the interspatial ring and calmed down. He looked coldly at the Ming Feng nation army in the distance, and his gaze finally landed on all the experts. I am willing to submit and follow you, Alchemy Saint. I'm willing to submit and go through fire and water for you, Alchemy Saint. We surrender. We surrender. Without waiting for Li Lingtian to speak, all the powerhouses and the army surrendered automatically. At this moment, Marshal Saint Qingmi had been defeated and young Master Yunfeng had been killed. The entire army had suffered heavy losses and there were not many martial saints left. Furthermore, with Li Lingtian and the war god, even if their strength was increased by 10 times, they would still be wiped out. Young Master D, Young Master D. Young Master D, Young Master D. Li Lingtian's victory was already numbed by the carefree Empire's army. In their hearts, Li Lingtian was undefeatable. However, Li Lingtian had reached another peak after defeating Marshal Saint Qingmi and young Master Yunfeng. All the soldiers and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty cheered. I'll give you a chance. If you betray me, I'll slaughter all the countries. This is your only chance. If you want to leave now, I won't kill you, nor will I blame you. But now that you've joined my Xiaoyao empire, you'll forever be my people. Including you. If you don't want to follow me and sweep the world, you can withdraw now. I won't say that you're useless or disloyal, because everyone's choice is different. However, after this, if I discover that the army and experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty have betrayed me, or that they have run away, I will not kill my opponents first. Instead, I will kill the traitors and those who have run away. After Li Lingtian finished speaking, he returned to the war god and left the rest to Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others. They handled these matters better than he did. He was the ruler of the Xiaoyao dynasty. As long as he appeared at the critical moment, it would be enough to control the overall situation of the world. The army was his sharp weapon. Wherever he pointed, the army would be like a sharp weapon that could destroy the world. Wherever the army pointed, they would be invincible. Following that, Li Lingtian returned to the war god and returned to his room with Tang Qingyue and the rest. The war god floated in the air, blocking the entire area. Even if the war god wasn't flying, it could still use the spiritual energy in the world to activate the array and float in space. While Li Lingtian and the rest were resting inside the war god, the army outside was reorganizing themselves in an orderly manner. In 2 days, the army was completely reorganized. 2 days later, the order was passed down and the army charged forward. The slogan of the army was, "Those who submit will prosper and those who rebel will perish." They will sweep through the entire Xianzhou and unify the world. Wherever he passed, he was invincible. This time, even though the army had lost over 1 million soldiers, they had become even stronger after reorganizing. There was one more thing. Li Lingtian had killed countless powerhouses consecutively, which left them trembling. In the Heavenly Fire Mountains, Li Lingtian had single-handedly killed hundreds of martial sovereigns and hundreds of martial saints. In Qingxian, Li Lingtian alone, along with his silver-winged flying dragon, had swept through countless powerhouses, killing hundreds of martial emperors and nearly 100 martial saints. In the end, he even managed to kill a super martial saint when they joined forces. This time, Li Lingtian had killed hundreds of martial emperors and nearly 100 martial saints. He had even defeated Martial Saint Qingmi and killed young Master Yunfeng. In just a few months, Li Lingtian had killed more than 1,000 martial emperors, hundreds of martial saints, and dozens of fifth firmament martial saints. Defeating Martial Saint Fengyun, killing Heavenly Yin Knight, defeating Martial Saint Qingmi, and killing young Master Yunfeng. All of this was done by a martial emperor powerhouse. Such a situation shocked the entire kingdom. Countless powerhouses were fearful and apprehensive. After all, they were only martial emperors and martial saints. They were no match for Li Lingtian at all. Furthermore, Li Lingtian's cultivation breakthrough was extremely fast. His strength was terrifying and heaven-defying. He was getting stronger and stronger. No one dared to easily face him. Furthermore, Li Lingtian now had the silver-winged flying dragon at the peak of Tier 8 Level 5 and the War God. It was like a tiger with wings and he was like an undefeatable god of war. Those who obey will prosper, and those who rebel will die. Sweep the Black Continent and unify the world. Within the 14 countries, there were 3 legions and tens of millions of soldiers everywhere. Wherever the army passed, it was like a whirlwind. Invincible in every attack, invincible in every battle. This was the aura of the Xiaoyao dynasty. The Divine Martial Army and the Divine Dragon Army of the 3 legions were the main attackers. They would charge at the front every day, while the Divine Wind Army and the tens of millions of troops would sweep through the rear. The army was like a rolling snowball, growing stronger and stronger, and the resistance they encountered was getting smaller and smaller. In the end, there was no main force at all, and the other party had completely given up on resisting and taken the initiative to join. Similarly, Li Lingtian's words were like a divine decree. Anyone who joined the Carefree dynasty could never betray them. Anyone who betrayed them would be exterminated and the nations would be slaughtered. For a moment, the morale of the Xiaoyao dynasty army soared, and there was no resistance wherever they passed. Within a month, the 14 kingdoms had been unified. Now, with the shock of the Moonsong Kingdom, there were only 10 upper-class kingdoms left in the Moonsong Kingdom. The 12 second-class countries, 12 lower-class countries, and 2 upper-class countries were all unified by the Xiaoyao dynasty. Marshal Saint Qingmi had been defeated, and young Master Yunfeng had been killed. The Moon Song Kingdom immediately entered a state of panic, even though the super experts and armies of the Moon Song Kingdom had yet to move out. However, the free and unfettered dynasty's aura and strength were simply invincible, giving the impression of being invincible to all the armies and experts. 26 countries were unified by the Xiaoyao dynasty, forming the true Xiaoyao dynasty. All the armies began to reorganize. However, this time, the number of troops reorganized had increased by quite a bit. In the army, those below the martial king realm were not allowed to join the battle. They could only be responsible for logistics. Only martial grandmasters were qualified to join the army. There were 2 million martial grandmasters, 1 million divine wind legion, 500,000 divine dragon legion, and 100,000 divine martial legion. Although this army only had less than 4 million people, they could easily destroy an army of 30 million. Moreover, Li Lingtian had upgraded the treatment and equipment of the army. The army was equipped with powerful weapons, powerful formations, powerful supplies, and rich conditions. As long as the army had military merits and contributions, they would have the opportunity to receive Li Lingtian's guidance. Such a simple administration did not affect the might of the army, but instead raised the morale of the army. This was because they understood that as the carefree empire grew stronger, there would be countless armies joining them. However, even if they joined the army, it would still be a competition. If he died now, he would die. The family members would receive generous compensation, but if they didn't die and didn't have any battle achievements or contributions, they could only be competed for. With 4 million soldiers and experts gathered, no matter which country they attacked, they would be able to resolve it as quickly as possible. This was because an army with a cultivation of martial arts grandmaster and above could fly. With such speed, what army or country could resist it? However, other than the 4 million soldiers, the other martial king realm experts had also formed an army. However, these armies could only defend the various countries and settle down there. The conquered countries naturally had to settle down and organize themselves. The martial king's army could only do logistics and cleaning up. At the same time, there was another advantage. Among the 4 million soldiers, those who had outstanding military achievements and contributions, or those who were intelligent, had a chance to become the ruler of a country or commandery. After the army was reorganized, 4 million soldiers were stationed in Fenghua City. This was because in front of Fenghua City, 10,000 miles away, was one of the top 10 countries, the Drifting Cloud Nation. The Drifting Cloud Nation was one of the 12 upper-class nations. Its strength was average, but it was close to the Carefree Dynasty's army. Therefore, countless experts and armies were stationed here. A war was about to break out. Although the war was approaching, Li Lingtian and the others were still playing and cultivating in the war god. The size of the war god was comparable to the Yuran Palace in the past. Furthermore, the upper floors of the war god were forbidden areas. Only they lived there. The luxurious facilities and rich spiritual energy were definitely a paradise for cultivation. The girls were cultivating and playing inside while Li Lingtian was in his room. He would raise his cultivation and stabilize his realm. On this day, Li Lingtian took out young Master Yunfeng's interspatial ring and examined it curiously. This interspatial ring was no different from an ordinary accessory, but it carried traces of spiritual energy. After looking at it for a while, Li Lingtian used his divine consciousness to erase the aura on it before entering the infinite space ring. After entering, Li Lingtian smiled. Compared to the divine dragon ring, the magical and precious interspatial ring was completely different. The interspatial ring was only 1 mile wide. Li Lingtian was disappointed to see such a large area and space, but he was excited about his divine dragon ring. There was no spatial treasure more powerful than the divine dragon ring in this world. P.S. I recommend the 7-Realm War God, a masterpiece of a great god, worth watching. Chapter 677, Comprehending the Ice Summoning Technique. He had originally thought that interspatial rings were very large, but now it seemed that even interspatial rings were only slightly better than ordinary storage bags. However, young Master Yunfeng's possession of the interspatial ring was indeed impressive. Inside the infinite space ring, Li Lingtian saw a pile of medicinal herbs and spiritual stones, as well as some decent treasures. However, he did not like any of these things. With his status, this bit of wealth could be ignored. In the end, he finally found a few jade slips and kept them. He used his divine sense to transfer all the items in the interspatial ring into his divine dragon ring. He had found his target. The Ice and Snow Summoning Technique, the Yun family's top-notch heaven rank cultivation technique. The Ice and Snow Summoning spell summoned the Ice Goddess. Although it was only a clone of the Ice Goddess, it was a piece of cake to deal with some martial saints. The Snow Goddess clone summoned by young Master Yunfeng was an exception. This was because the clone he summoned had cheated. The Snow Goddess knew Li Lingtian in his past life and would not kill him. However, Li Lingtian knew that with the Snow Goddess's clone's strength, it would be easy for her to kill a 6th or 7th heaven martial saint. Therefore, his goal was to find this ice summoning spell. When he comprehended it, he would summon the clone of the Ice Goddess to become his fighter. At that thought, Li Lingtian's face cracked into an evil smile. In his previous life, although he didn't have much interaction with the Snow Goddess, he had to tease her in this life. The Ice Goddess was as cold as ice and had no emotions at all. He had always wondered if the Ice Goddess was so cold. However, after seeing the split soul of the Snow Goddess, he knew that the Snow Goddess was not completely cold. It was just her attributes and personality. Thinking about how he would be able to summon the Snow Goddess for no reason in the future, he felt great. After doing everything, he sent his spiritual sense into the jade slip to read the cultivation method of the ice summoning technique. He had the Ice Soul Martial Soul, an immemorial ice crystal. This ice summoning skill was also of the ice element. Naturally, he could easily comprehend the principles of the ice summoning skill. Slowly, Li Lingtian entered a state of clarity as he continued to understand the frost summoning skill. After 3 days of cultivation, he finally found a way to cultivate the ice summoning spell. However, he could only cultivate the technique now. He could not use it easily, lest he summoned the Snow Goddess. That would not be fun. The main thing was that with his current cultivation, if he used the ice summoning technique, his true essence would be exhausted. Following that, Li Lingtian continued to study the frost summoning skill while he worked hard to cultivate other divine powers and cultivation techniques. He spent half of his time accompanying Huangfu Yuyan and the others, occasionally comprehending pill techniques and array formations. Moreover, Longda had retrieved the god-destroying wind thunder slash from his body. Since his cultivation had reached the 6th heaven of the martial emperor realm, he could slowly think of a way to refine this divine weapon. However, no matter what method he used, he couldn't refine the wind lightning god-destroying slash. Now, other than a few heaven-defying divine powers, he also had the Heaven Extreme Tyrant Emperor Saber, the Sky Universe Sword, the Heavenly Fault Sword, and the Heavenly Demon Zither. As for the other treasures, he did not use them. Even if he did, he would not have much time to use them. What he needed to do now was to find a way to refine and control the god-destroying wind thunder slash and figure out the Shinong Cauldron and the Creation Cauldron. He controlled the freezing sky god altar. That freezing sky god altar weighed billions of pounds. Even a super true god would be crushed to death. It was just that he could not control it now, and he did not dare to pay attention to it. Moreover, there were many treasures that he didn't want to touch. The 6 treasures of the underworld, the heavenly staff, and the demon suppressing wheel were all heaven-defying treasures, but he did not want to touch them. Because he didn't need it for the time being. Moreover, with his cultivation and strength, some divine powers were enough. On this day, Li Lingtian managed to comprehend the Tyrannical Blade Mantra while he was cultivating the Tyrannical Blade Mantra and the Treasure Control Mantra. There were 3 moves in the tyrant's blade art. The first move was called Desolate 10 consecutive strikes. He hadn't had the time or cultivation to comprehend the second move. However, he had comprehended the second move of the tyrannical saber art while cultivating the treasure control art. The second move of the tyrant blade art, Destruction Wind Cloud Break. When he used this move, the space was destroyed, and the wind and clouds surged. The killing intent of the tyrant blade art was everywhere and could penetrate through any hole, giving the opponent a destructive blow. It was no longer limited to a blade light or a force, but the force of wind and cloud between heaven and earth to kill the opponent. However, after this move was used, half of the true essence would be consumed. Moreover, if the control was not good, the power would backfire, causing the master to be injured. After he had comprehended it, Li Lingtian used his palm as a substitute for his blade to practice the second form of the tyrant's blade art. This was because he didn't dare to use it on the war god. Moreover, his current identity was sensitive. Countless experts were watching him and knew his trump card. Naturally, he wouldn't let the enemy know about the second move of the tyrant's blade art. Unless it was absolutely necessary, he would not use the second move of the tyrant's blade art to avoid attracting the attention of other experts. Shu. The second move of the tyrannical blade art, Destruction of Wind and Cloud, Destruction of Heaven and Earth. It can be called a saint-tier divine power. After Li Lingtian had finished cultivating the tyrant's blade scroll, he slowly retracted his aura and spoke indifferently with a confident smile on his face. The first move was a heaven-tier divine power, and the second move was a saint-tier divine power. This power was even stronger than the Heaven Sword Unity executed by the Tianyu sword. At that time, it would definitely be a terrifying trump card. Congratulations on cultivating the second move of the tyrant's blade art. After cultivating the second move of the tyrant's blade art, I can even kill a 6th heaven martial saint. Shun Mei, and the others greeted Li Lingtian when they saw that he had finished cultivating. With a charming smile on their faces, they reached out and wiped the sweat off Li Lingtian's face with a silk handkerchief. A powerhouse like Li Lingtian would not sweat at all. With a strong Jin Yuan and a strong physique, unless he encountered a powerful opponent, he would not be so tired. However, Li Lingtian had a habit of putting down his quintessential essence to practice a divine ability or skill before he mastered it. Without the cooperation of true essence, although he was stronger than ordinary people, even gods would get tired of practicing a move continuously. However, Li Lingtian never felt bored because he could only reap greater rewards through hard work. Without gains, he would not be able to break through and improve himself. If he could not break through, he could only wait to be killed. I can't say for sure if he's at the 6th heaven, but if he encounters a 5th heaven expert, he'll definitely be killed with this move. Even if Martial Saint Jingmi comes again, I can kill him in one move. The smile on Li Lingtian's face was filled with confidence. He was confident because he was strong and confident because he had the heart of a powerhouse. Let's go and rest. Tang Genji spoke at this moment. Following that, a group of girls followed Li Lingtian out of the practice room and arrived outside the war god. They were currently on the top 3 floors of the war god. The war god was huge, and the few of them looked extremely small on top of it. Sitting on the war god's chair, he admired the fresh air outside and looked at the army of millions. Right, when do you plan to make your move? Huangfu Yuyan and the others looked at their 4 million strong army and then looked at the distance. They spoke indifferently before they turned their beautiful eyes to Li Lingtian. A month had passed but Li Lingtian had yet to make a move. They had no idea what Li Lingtian had planned. Moonsong Kingdom has 10 martial saints. Besides the 10 great martial saints, there are countless super experts. Let's not talk about the other super experts. I've only killed one of the 10 great martial saints, Heavenly Yin Knight, and defeated Wind Cloud Martial Saint and Jingmi Martial Saint. But there are still 7 martial saints who haven't appeared. Among these martial saints, I heard that 2 of them are from the Wanyan family. The first and fourth of the 10 martial saints are from the Wanyan family. Let's not talk about the other super experts and the other 10 great martial saints. I'm not their opponent for now. So, we can't make a move first. We have to wait for them to make a move. Or, I'll find a good opportunity to make a move. Li Lingtian spoke in a serious tone. Despite his powerful cultivation base and shocking strength, the morale of the army was soaring. However, he knew how powerful his opponent was. He alone, along with the 3 legions, was no match for the Moonsong Kingdom. The main reason was that the enemy had too many terrifying experts. The 10 great martial saints were basically all Moonsong King's people. There were also some super experts from Moonsong Kingdom hiding, so he didn't dare to make a move easily. Unless they made the first move and the Xiaoyao dynasty retaliated passively. Otherwise, he would find a suitable opportunity to make a move. However, that opportunity would be to break through or strengthen himself. Otherwise, he would not dare to make a move. Even though he had mastered the second move of the Tyrant Blade art, Nirvana Wind Cloud Break, he was still unwilling to act recklessly. After all, he was only one person. Big Brother Ling Tian, if you break through to the 7th or 8th level Martial Emperor realm and master the Icy Snow summoning technique and the Wind Lightning God exterminating slash, you should be able to find the opportunity. Xianyuan Yingying looked at Li Lingtian and spoke seriously. Although there was no change in her expression, Li Lingtian could feel the change in Xianyuan Yingying's mood. However, he did not know what she was thinking. Yingying is right. The opportunity one mentioned is the 7th or 8th heaven of the Martial Emperor realm, the ice summoning skill, and the god destroying wind and thunder slash. However, Ren Sui's heaven-defying gift can't be forced. Therefore, these 3 are temporarily impossible. Besides, even if I master the ice summoning spell and summon the ice goddess's clone to the lower realm, I might not be able to wipe out the Moonsong Kingdom. Li Lingtian looked at Xianyuan Yingying as he spoke at a moderate pace. It was very difficult to reach the 7th or 8th heaven. After all, he was only at the 6th heaven and was very far from the perfection realm, let alone the 7th or 8th heaven. He had already mastered the ice summoning spell, but he had never tried it before. Chapter 678, 5 Elements Sacred Body. Big Brother Ling Tian, come here for a moment. Xianyuan Yingying looked at Li Lingtian. For some reason, her face flushed. He spoke to Li Lingtian before he left the war god and headed inside. The others were stunned. They were all sisters in this place and there were no outsiders. However, Xianyuan Yingying was obviously living behind their backs. Such a thing had never happened here before. For a moment, they did not know why. He then looked at Li Lingtian curiously. Li Lingtian was baffled but he still stood up and walked inside. What's wrong with Sister Yingying? Is there something else that you're afraid of us hearing? Ji pouted in confusion as she watched Li Lingtian leave. She began to ponder. The other girls were also puzzled, but they soon understood what was going on. I understand. Hee, this is so fun. Tang Zimeng suddenly laughed as she looked in the direction Li Lingtian had left. What do you understand? Tang Qingyue looked at her sister and asked curiously. Yeah, Meng, what do you understand? Hurry up and tell me. Meng, what do you know? Is there anything else Yingying is afraid of us knowing? Suddenly, the girls looked at Tang Zimeng curiously, waiting for her to tell them why Xianyuan Yingying was avoiding them. Don't you know about this? It must be about the 5 elements sacred body. As long as Brother Ling Tian becomes a 5 elements sacred body, he'll be able to reach the 7th or 8th heavenly layer very quickly. Moreover, Yingying can also become a 5 elements sacred body. Tang Zimeng raised her head proudly and told him about Xianyuan Yingying. I see. No wonder Yingying blushed. Hee, this is so fun. If Ling Tian wants to attain the 5 elements sacred body, he must marry Yingying. After the dual cultivation, the two of them will be able to attain the 5 elements sacred body. The 5 elements sacred body will be many times stronger than the 5 elements will. When Ling Tian's 5 elements sacred body and 5 elements will reach the 7th or 8th heaven martial emperor realm, he will be able to fight against other super powerhouses. This is making things difficult for Yingying. Yingying isn't young anymore. It's time. Huang Fu Yuyan and the others discussed animatedly with smiles on their faces. Thinking of Xianyuan Yingying's blushing face, he felt that it was funny. Xianyuan Yingying entered the room with a red face. Li Lingtian could not understand why Xianyuan Yingying would be like this. She had to avoid other girls. If that was the case, there would be a gap between them in the future. However, he couldn't say anything now. He could only follow her. Perhaps Xianyuan Yingying had something else to do. Yingying, what's wrong? There was a faint smile on Li Lingtian's lips. Regardless of the situation, he was always kind to his own people. He had to get to the bottom of things first. Even if there were any mistakes, he would teach them nicely. Big brother Ling Tian, do you remember the 5 elements sacred body? Xianyuan Yingying was shy to begin with. Now that Li Lingtian had asked her this question, she became even more shy. Her hands were placed somewhere and she kept twisting her clothes. I know. Li Lingtian immediately understood what was going on. The 5 elements sacred body was on a completely different realm and level compared to the 5 elements Tao intent. In this world, it was difficult to encounter the will of the Great Path alone, let alone the will of the 5 elements. Moreover, there was the magical 5 elements sacred body. As long as one achieved the 5 elements sacred body, their cultivation and strength would soar, and their entire person would be sublimated. However, no one in this world, or even the upper realm, knew about the 5 elements sacred body. However, they had a solution. That was to dual cultivate with Xianyuan Yingying and become husband and wife. If that was the case, Li Lingtian's 5 elements perfection and Xianyuan Yingying's metal, water, fire, and earth elements would combine to form the 5 elements sacred body. By then, the two of them would have attained the 5 elements sacred body, which would be heaven-defying. However, he had almost forgotten about this matter after a long time. He did not expect Xianyuan Yingying to bring it up at this time. Big brother Ling Tian, Yingying isn't young anymore. Yingying is going to be big brother Ling Tian's wife. At that time, brother Ling Tian and Yingying will have the 5 elements sacred body. Their cultivation bases will increase rapidly and they'll be able to deal with more powerhouses. Xianyuan Yingying's face was extremely red. However, this was her personality. She would say whatever she wanted. No matter how shy she was, she would not hide it. After such a long time, she was still unable to advance her cultivation base and her feelings for Li Lingtian were growing deeper and deeper. It was just that she had not reached the final step. Yingying, have you thought about it? This is the happiness of your life. Li Lingtian did not say anything more because there was no need for them to say anything between them. The relationship between the two of them had become very deep over the past few years. They were like husband and wife. When they were together, they would stick together. It was just that they did not reach the final step. I've thought about it long ago. As long as big brother Ling Tian dotes on me, I'll be the happiest. Xianyuan Yingying nodded and blushed. Li Lingtian came to Xianyuan Yingying's side and embraced her. He looked at her with a gentle and serious gaze. Without saying anything, he kissed her rosy lips. Suddenly, Xianyuan Yingying's delicate body trembled, and she froze as if she had been electrocuted. After a long time, Xianyuan Yingying finally got used to it as she tried to cater to Li Lingtian awkwardly. When Li Lingtian woke up the next day, he looked at Xianyuan Yingying beside him with a tender and loving expression. He reached out and caressed her beautiful face. Xianyuan Yingying woke up at the same time. She was shy when she saw Li Lingtian's actions. Usually, she did not mind as the two of them would chat and laugh and flirt with each other. However, as she had just become Li Lingtian's woman, she was naturally extremely shy. However, Xianyuan Yingying leaned her head against Li Lingtian's chest. The two of them did not speak and enjoyed each other's presence in silence. Next, the two of them began to comprehend the Tao of dual cultivation. The dual cultivation this time was different from the other dual cultivation sessions. Li Lingtian's 5 elements Tao intent was at the peak of the 5 elements while Xianyuan Yingying's 5 elements lacked 4 elements. During the dual cultivation session, she had to control her Tao heart. For 3 days, Li Lingtian and Xianyuan Yingying did not leave the room. Tang Qingyue and the others were extremely worried because dual cultivation was not an easy task. If there was a slight mistake, all their efforts would be for naught, and it might even affect their cultivation realm. Li Lingtian and Xianyuan Yingying were already cultivating on their own. This was because their 5 elements sacred bodies had already been formed. They needed the 5 elements sacred body now. With his eyes closed, he entered a state of emptiness, and his entire body continued to sublimate. The will of metal would Tao intent of water fire Tao intent the Tao of earth the 5 elements Tao intent reached perfection and continued to increase. Gradually, the 5 elements will of the way sublimated and reached an indescribable realm. The 5 elements of heaven and earth appeared in Li Lingtian's mind at this moment. Things that he did not understand before were now clear to him. Unknowingly, the true essence in his body was also changing. The 5-colored golden core kept spinning, and the true essence became richer and richer. His dantian was like an endless sea. The golden core spun inside, causing the sea to surge with monstrous waves. Moreover, as the sea area churned, the golden core grew stronger and stronger. The light of the 5-colored golden core grew stronger and stronger. Boom! Boom! 2 muffled sounds came from within his body. Only Li Lingtian's divine consciousness, or rather, his consciousness, could sense the sound. At this moment, his cultivation, which was only at the 6th level of the martial emperor realm, skyrocketed. His dantian rolled like a sea, and his realm reached the 7th level of the martial emperor realm. However, the sea did not stop. On the contrary, it rolled even more violently. 8th level martial emperor realm. In the blink of an eye, Li Lingtian had broken through 2 realms but he did not feel anything. His eyes were still tightly shut, and his hands were constantly waving. The mysterious hand gestures kept changing. Every time they changed, the aura in the room would change as well. This room was like an independent world, completely cut off from the outside world. Shu. After an unknown period of time, Li Lingtian's 5 elements sacred body sensed the existence of another 5 elements sacred body. The 2 5 elements worlds began to collide but soon, the 2 5 elements sacred bodies merged together as if they were family. At that moment, Li Lingtian opened his eyes and saw his figure ignoring the space around him and arriving before Xianyuan Yingying. Seeing this situation, he could not help but gasp in shock. He believed that his consciousness could ignore space, but he had never thought that his body could ignore space. However, such a thing happened to him. Xianyuan Yingying also woke up when she came in front of her. They looked at each other and started cultivating again. When their 5 elements sacred bodies fused together, there was no difference in their true essence. Even Xianyuan Yingying, who had no cultivation, had true essence in her body. Moreover, the density of her true essence was no different from his. Soon, he understood that after he and Xianyuan Yingying dual cultivated, they had reached the level of true QJ sharing. Naturally, there was no difference. He opened his eyes, his expression calm. Xianyuan Yingying opened her eyes and looked at Li Lingtian gently. After dual cultivation, their relationship had sublimated. There was no barrier between the two of them, and they were naturally very good. Yingying, congratulations on reaching the 8th heaven of the martial emperor realm. Li Lingtian was shocked beyond words when he saw Xuan Yuan Yingying's cultivation base. However, he eventually accepted the fact that both of them had the same cultivation base. However, he could not help but be shocked when he suddenly became an 8th-level martial emperor from a person without any cultivation. This is all thanks to Big Brother Ling Tian. Brother Ling Tian is at the 8th-level martial emperor realm, so Yingying is naturally at the 8th-level martial emperor realm as well. In the future, Yu have the 5 elements sacred body. With Sister Yuyan and the others, we'll be able to sweep the world. Xianyuan Yingying's peerlessly beautiful face blushed for a moment before she relaxed. Chapter 679, Yingying's Cultivation. I didn't expect the 5 elements sacred body to reach the peak of the 8th heaven regardless of the realm. The power of the 5 elements sacred body is indeed incomparable to the Tao intent. Even if I haven't completely mastered the 5 elements sacred body, I can still unleash the Tao intent to its fullest. Li Lingtian could feel the cultivation base in his body, the destructive true essence and the changes in his body. Excitement was written all over his face. The 5 elements sacred body had improved both his cultivation and his body. He was one with heaven and earth and could control the will of the 5 elements. Any expert with the 5 elements martial soul would tremble in front of him. Big Brother Ling Tian, you should be able to unleash your 9 heaven stars now, right? Xianyuan Yingying leaned against Li Lingtian as she spoke gently. In the past, they weren't husband and wife. No matter how intimate they weren't this gentle. Now that they were husband and wife, there was no estrangement at all. Naturally, they were incomparably gentle. I should be able to unleash my full potential now. After all, the 9 heavenly stars are built on the 5 elements. The will of the 5 elements could support the 9 heavenly stars, but my cultivation is too low, so I can't fully unleash its power. Now that I've reached the peak of the 8th heaven, and with the 5 elements sacred body supporting the 5 elements will, I can unleash the 9 skies stars to its fullest. I can instantly unleash the 9 skies stars and kill experts with a flip of my hand. Li Lingtian nodded. In the past few days, his cultivation base and strength had skyrocketed in a short span of a few days. His confidence had also soared. Then, the two of them left the room. When they went out, they saw Tang Qingyue and the others looking at them with concern. They were very touched. Sister Yuyan, Sister Qingyue. Xianyuan Yingying greeted Huangfu Yuyan and the others one by one, her face blushing. She did not feel anything when she was alone with Li Lingtian. However, as Li Lingtian's new wife, she was naturally shy when she saw Tang Qingyue and the rest waiting outside. That's impossible. What happened? Yingying, what's wrong with your cultivation? Ling Tian, Yingying's cultivation. Your cultivation bases are all at the 8th heaven. How is this possible? Huangfu Yuyan and the others wanted to tease Xianyuan Yingying, but after seeing her temperament and her cultivation, they were stunned. All of them had their small mouths wide open, looking extremely surprised, as if they had seen something magical. This was within Li Lingtian's expectations. Not to mention Tang Qingyue and the others, even he was shocked and in disbelief at first. But that was the truth. Xianyuan Yingying had indeed reached the 8th firmament martial emperor realm. Her cultivation base was exactly the same as Li Lingtian's. Yingying and I have both attained the 5 elements sacred body. Naturally, our cultivation is the same. Li Lingtian had a faint smile on his face. If it were anyone else, they would have exploded from the sheer amount of cultivation. However, Xianyuan Yingying had attained the 5 elements sacred body first. The 5 elements sacred body could bear any true essence and cultivation, and it was compatible with the world's spirit chi and attributes. Congratulations, Yingying. Congratulations, Sister Yingying. Congratulations, Big Brother Ling Tian. Congratulations, Ling Tian, for reaching the 8th heaven martial emperor realm. By then, you will be able to wipe out the Moonsong Kingdom. Congratulations, young master. Laughter and congratulations filled the entire war god. After a long time, they finally quieted down. Huangfu Yuyan and the others had gained a true sister, a true former. Naturally, they were extremely happy. Now that Ling Tian's cultivation base has increased and all his divine abilities have improved, I believe the war is about to begin. Tang Qingyue looked at Li Lingtian. She learned from him that Li Lingtian's cultivation base had improved and he had attained the 5 elements sacred body. His various techniques had become unparalleled. If he were to face a martial saint again, he would be fearless. The war must begin. However, we can't act now. I need to stabilize my cultivation first and master all kinds of skills and divine arts. Then, I can destroy Moonsong Kingdom in one go. If it's a prolonged battle, then there's no need for that. Our current cultivation and strength are still very weak. We're still far from being able to fight against a real kingdom. Therefore, we'll occupy Moonsong Kingdom as a foothold and quickly nurture our own army to increase our strength. We'll strive for you to become martial honors or martial sovereigns. Li Lingtian said earnestly. He had come to understand that their true goal was to strengthen themselves. Now, it would not be good if he delayed his cultivation for the sake of the war. Therefore, he had to take advantage of the fact that he had not made a move against the Moonsong Kingdom to stabilize his cultivation. After his realm stabilized, he would take down Moonsong Kingdom in one go. At that time, he would establish a foothold in Moonsong Kingdom, train an army, and start cultivating. You're right. Although we control endless resources, we haven't really used them. If other experts had resources like ours, they definitely wouldn't fight. Therefore, we have to settle down and cultivate. Only after we raise our cultivation can we have greater achievements. Even if we compete with the Xianzhou continent at that time, we will have a certain qualification. Huangfu Yuyan was extremely satisfied. She was more experienced than Li Lingtian and the rest. She was naturally happy that Li Lingtian was considerate in everything. Moreover, Li Lingtian had a heaven-defying cultivation base and talent. However, he had yet to make use of them. Hence, he needed to settle down and cultivate. How about this? Will you focus on cultivating during this period of time? The 5 of you and Yingying, let's study the formation of our joint forces. We'll use a formation to increase our combined strength to the extreme. As long as the army of Moonsong Kingdom doesn't attack us, we don't have to provoke them. We can't waste this opportunity. Li Lingtian smiled before resting on the war god. He had been cultivating with Xianyuan Yingying for the past few days to comprehend the sacred body of 5 elements. He was a little tense. Now that he could relax, it would be beneficial for him to comprehend the formation when he joined forces. Dual cultivation was a heaven-defying cultivation in itself. It could quickly increase one's cultivation. The true essence between them flowed, but they could not share it with Li Lingtian like Xianyuan Yingying. However, as long as they were able to set up the formation technique, they would be able to help Li Lingtian when they joined forces. Training and playing on the war god, comprehending cultivation techniques, pill techniques, skills, and divine arts, and accompanying his wives, his days were quite relaxing. After resting for 2 to 3 days, Li Lingtian brought Huangfu Yuyan and the rest into the practice room. Before entering, he had told Xiao Bai and the others not to disturb them before they came out. Even if the war had begun, they were not to be disturbed unless it was absolutely necessary. If it didn't work, he would use the war god to bring the army away. They could not be disturbed in their cultivation. Such cultivation was related to their lifetime achievements. If he succeeded in cultivating it, he would be able to sweep the world. If he failed after disturbing it, the gains would not make up for the losses. In the practice room, Li Lingtian allowed Tang Qingyue and the others to cultivate on their own while he began to comprehend the Tao of dual cultivation by himself. This was because he wanted to find a way to share cultivation and attack together. No matter what almighty technique it was created by the strong. Li Lingtian had created a skill based on the ice-fire combination. He understood that as long as one had talent, they would be able to create a suitable cultivation method and skill. Now, he had 6 wives. There was no need to mention Xianyuan Yingying. She also had the 5 elements sacred body. The 2 of them naturally shared the 5 elements sacred body. However, Tang Qingyue and the others were still at the 9th level martial emperor realm. They had not even reached the martial honor realm. If they wanted to join forces, the difference in cultivation was too great. He had to think of a way to make up for this difference in cultivation. Yuyan, Qingyue, come over and see if this cultivation technique works. This is the 5 elements reincarnation of dual cultivation. It should be the most suitable for us to cultivate now. After a full 3 days, Li Lingtian finally found the 5 elements reincarnation on the divine array diagram. The 5 elements reincarnation was a formation, a mantra and a cultivation technique suitable for dual cultivation. It was to use the 5 elements reincarnation by the female side to transfer their true essence and cultivation to the male side, causing their cultivation to reach an extreme. It was simple to use, but its power was heaven-defying and magical. Then, Tang Qingyue and the others began to comprehend the 5 elements reincarnation. However, Xianyuan Yingying had the 5 elements sacred body, so she could not cultivate the 5 elements reincarnation. However, she was able to join hands with Li Lingtian and share their cultivation base to reach a terrifying realm. He was in the training room and did not know what was going on outside. Outside, the battle had already begun. However, this time, there was no battle between martial saints. That was because the Carefree dynasty did not send out any martial saints. As a royal kingdom, the Moonsong kingdom naturally did not dare to go against the iron law of the divine martial continent. This was the tragedy of a great kingdom. Small commanderies and countries could act without fear, but kingdoms did not dare to do so. They knew that if they violated the iron law, they would be suppressed by other kingdoms and empires. The destruction of the kingdoms was nothing, but the status of the kingdoms was extremely high, and they did not want their own kingdoms to perish. Therefore, they were waiting for a martial saint to appear in the Carefree dynasty. As long as a martial saint from the Carefree dynasty came out, they would use the excuse of self-defense to send out super experts to wipe out the Carefree dynasty. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others understood what was going on when they saw this. He had received Li Lingtian's order and understood that Li Lingtian was in seclusion and could not participate in the battle. Now that he saw that the other party was afraid of the iron law, he was eager to do so. Then, he gathered all the martial saints and could not participate in the battle. Even if the 3 legions and the 2 million soldiers were all wiped out, they would not send out any martial saints. This way, the other party wouldn't dare to send out martial saints to fight. With the 2 million soldiers and 3 legions, they naturally wouldn't be afraid of the other party's attack. In his opinion, as long as he could wait for Li Lingtian to come out of seclusion, it would be a complete victory. Chapter 680, 8th Level Martial Emperor Realm. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others had been waiting for Li Lingtian to come out of seclusion. Once he did, the battle would no longer be in such a stalemate. After all, for the Carefree dynasty, a stalemate was a form of demoralization. However, for a powerhouse like Li Lingtian, it was unknown how long it would take him to cultivate in seclusion. Although the battle outside did not look like much, both sides would have millions of troops fighting at any time. If the other party were to use a martial saint powerhouse, the Xiaoyao dynasty would not have any way to resist. The thing he was worried about still happened. On this day, a total of 4 million troops from both sides were charging through the 2 cities, wanting to attack the free and unfettered dynasty's city. The city wall was a symbol of defense for a city, but to a super expert, the city wall was nothing. As long as the city wall was forced, the morale of the Xiaoyao dynasty army would be low. Therefore, the army could only block the army of Moonsong Kingdom from the outside. Moonsong Kingdom did not hide its strength, nor did it want the other countries to fight Li Lingtian's carefree dynasty. Moonsong Kingdom knew that with Li Lingtian's strength, it would be a piece of cake if they relied on the other countries to fight. By then, the carefree dynasty would become stronger and stronger. When the carefree dynasty conquered all the other countries, even his Moonsong Kingdom would not be easy to deal with. Therefore, the Moonsong Kingdom had sent out a super strong army, countless martial saints, and even a few powerhouses from the 10 great martial saints. The battle was like tea and fire. The 3 legions and 2 million soldiers were extremely terrifying. Even against the army of Moonsong Kingdom, they were like wolves and tigers. However, at this moment, dozens of super experts appeared in the sky. A martial saint. Moreover, these martial saint experts were all at the 3rd sky or above. There were even more than a dozen 5th sky martial saint experts. Such a lineup immediately shocked the carefree dynasty's army. At the same time, Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others also saw this situation. After seeing this lineup, their expressions changed drastically. The thing he was most worried about had finally happened. Call Li Lingtian out. Isn't Li Lingtian very powerful? A 3rd sky of the Martial Saint Realm expert looked at the countless super experts around him and shouted with excitement on his face. During this period, Li Lingtian did not appear and the carefree dynasty's army did not initiate an attack. This immediately raised the suspicion of countless powerhouses. According to the style of the carefree dynasty, they would press forward with indomitable spirit. However, the garrison of the carefree dynasty had no intention of attacking the other countries. Something must have happened to Li Lingtian. In this way, everyone agreed to attack the Xiaoyao dynasty. Even if they risked breaking the Iron Law, they would only be punished. Besides, Moonsong Kingdom was a kingdom, and Qing Xian Kingdom was a kingdom under Moonsong Kingdom. This was considered a matter of duty and had nothing to do with the Iron Law. In a world where the strong were respected, the weak could not rely on the Iron Law at all. Ha, ha. Why don't you guys do it? Martial Saint Ming Luo was also floating in the air. Hundreds of Martial Saint powerhouses were behind him. They circulated their vital essence to the limit. As long as a battle broke out, they would attack. Martial Saints had their own battles, and armies had their own battles. Since they had joined the Carefree Empire, they could not run away. This was the ironclad law of the Carefree Empire. Kill them. What Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others did not expect was that the other party did not hesitate at all and started the battle. Kill them. When Martial Saint Ming Luo saw this situation, she retreated. All the experts retreated as well and came to the war god. Longde waved his hand, and hundreds of light shadows shot forward. Rumble. Rumble. A shocking explosion sounded. The power of the war god was unleashed to the extreme. Countless martial emperors and martial saints disappeared in an instant. An ordinary monster beast inner core could not kill a 3rd sky martial saint. Only level 8, level 3 inner cores could kill it. However, there weren't many level 8, level 3 inner cores on the war god. Even if he had collected a lot during this period of time, he could not use it carelessly. Now, facing countless level 3 powerhouses, the war god could only use its level 8 level 3 inner core. Ah! 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 For a moment, the sound of destructive attacks resounded through the world. Countless martial saints and martial emperors died at this moment. However, these martial saints quickly changed their direction and came to the side of the war god, attacking it continuously. Boom! Explosions could be heard from inside the war god from time to time. Although the attack of a martial saint couldn't break through the war god's defense for the time being, the tremors were still very big. Li Lingtian's face revealed a faint murderous intent. Lingtian, let's go out first. Anyway, we've already cultivated the 5 elements reincarnation. If we're too late, it'll affect the morale of the army. It won't do us any good if we lose the army. Tang Qingyue looked at Li Lingtian as she spoke calmly. In fact, they had already comprehended and cultivated the 5 elements reincarnation a few days ago. It was just that they had not used it. They didn't know how powerful it was, but now that they felt the battle outside, they knew. All right then. Let's go out and see what kind of courage they have to break the iron law. Li Lingtian's lips curled into an evil smile. He knew that there were many super martial saints in Moonsong Kingdom, including the 10 great martial saints and the powerhouses from the Warwick family. However, after reaching the 8th heaven of the martial emperor realm, he had achieved the 5 elements sacred body and mastered more powerful divine powers. He was full of confidence and naturally did not have to worry about anything. Even if he couldn't win, he could still escape. In this world, when fighting against the strong, survival was victory. Who cared if you escaped or not? After saying that, they left the training room and went to the hall of the war god. They saw Ge and the others waiting for them. Big brother, you guys are done cultivating? There's a huge battle outside. Ge was worried sick. When Ge saw Li Lingtian and the others coming out, he quickly ran over and threw himself into Li Lingtian's arms. She did not have the slightest scruples as they were all family. Furthermore, her sisters knew of her relationship with Li Lingtian, so they naturally did not have any scruples. Don't be afraid. Didn't Big Brother come out? Let's go. Whoever dares to scare our Ge, Big Brother will kill them all. Let's see if they dare to do it again in the future. You actually dared to scare our Ge. Big Brother will help you vent your anger. Tu Li Lingtian said with a smile as he hugged Ge. He gently stroked Ge's hair with a tender expression on his face. Ge was his junior sister and a treasure to him. With that, he led everyone out of the hall and headed out of the war god. When he arrived at the deck of the war god, he felt the destructive power and the terror of a super martial saint. Tang Qingyue and the others were chatting and laughing behind them. They didn't take the battle seriously at all. Are you done? Li Lingtian was getting impatient as he watched the powerhouses bombarding the war god in the sky. The defense of the war god was something that a 5th sky martial saint could not shake. Otherwise, Histit Li's holy array master would be in vain. Even though he wasn't worried about the war god's defense, he still felt unhappy when he saw all the powerhouses attacking the war god. In front of him, he actually dared to make a move. This was provocation. Towards those who provoked him, he naturally would not be polite. Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian. Young Master D. Young Master. At that moment, everyone caught sight of Li Lingtian. They were shocked by his relaxed and carefree manner. Martial Saint Ming Luo and the others were pleasantly surprised. With Li Lingtian's presence, things would be much easier. However, when the other powerhouses saw Li Lingtian, their eyes were filled with fear and dread. Swoosh, swoosh. So, the sound of air being torn apart was heard. All the powerhouses retreated, leaving the war god as far as they could. He looked at Li Lingtian in the war god with fear as if he had seen a ghost. Young Master D, Young Master D. Young Master D, Young Master D. The carefree Empire's army cheered when they saw Li Lingtian. The armies on both sides stopped at that moment because it was the battle between the martial saints. They didn't want to die. As long as they won the battle between the martial saints, they would win. If their martial saints lost, they would only die no matter how hard they tried. Courting death. Very good, very good. Li Lingtian looked at the quiet space before he looked at the restriction above the war god. Then, his gaze shifted to the army of the Moonsong Kingdom and the experts. Wherever his gaze passed, all the experts lowered their heads. His voice was calm, but in the hearts of all the experts, it was as if a sharp sword had pierced through their chests. Naturally, they did not know that Li Lingtian's cultivation base had skyrocketed after he attained the 8th heaven martial emperor realm. His strength was terrifying and his divine consciousness was even more heaven-defying. After the 5 elements sacred body, the 5 elements will of the way became even more magical. His every move was driven by the power of heaven and earth. Even if his voice was calm, it was like a cold thunder. 8th level martial emperor realm. Isn't it the 6th heaven of the martial emperor realm? He wasn't at the 6th level of the martial emperor realm a while ago, but he became an 8th level martial emperor realm expert in a short time. Shu, how did you cultivate this? 8th level martial emperor realm. Young master has reached the 8th heaven of the martial emperor realm. At that moment, a few super martial saints noticed Li Lingtian's cultivation base. They were immediately shocked. Even though they had never met Li Lingtian before, they were well aware of Li Lingtian's cultivation base. He did not expect that he would reach the peak of the 8th heaven martial emperor realm while he was still at the 6th heaven martial emperor realm a while ago. When Qing Xian and Qing Luo were at war, Li Lingtian was only at the 4th heaven martial emperor realm. It had only been a short while since then, yet he was already at the 8th heaven. The army and experts of the Moon Song Kingdom were shocked, while Marshal Saint Ming Luo and the others were extremely excited. Li Lingtian's cultivation base had directly surpassed 2 realms. Such an improvement in cultivation base was simply heaven-defying. Even when he was a warrior, it was already heaven-defying to break through 2 realms in a row. When he reached the martial supreme realm, it would take him several years to break through 1 realm. To break through 2 realms in a row was something that had never happened in the divine martial continent. Chapter 681, The Terror of the 5 Elements Tao Intent. The 4th or 5th level of the martial emperor realm was already terrifying. Now that he had reached the 8th level of the martial emperor realm, who else could deal with him? All the experts from the Cloudwater Kingdom and the Moonsong Kingdom were shocked beyond words. How dare you touch my war god and scare my baby? Unforgivable. Li Lingtian's gaze turned colder as his aura surged. The cultivation realm of the 8th heaven martial emperor realm was many times stronger than when he was at the 6th heaven. In a flash, he left the war god and floated in the air, circulating his true yuan. His entire body was filled with the destructive will of the Great Path, and the world began to tremble in front of it. Boom! Boom! Ah, ah, ah! Rumble! Immediately, Li Lingtian circulated the 5 elements will and the world was filled with it. In front of the 5 elements will, all the super experts felt the destruction. They all had the 5 elements martial souls and could not escape the constraints of the 5 elements. Although his cultivation was higher than Li Lingtian 1's, Li Lingtian had mastered the 5 elements will. His true origin was extremely terrifying. The true origin of an 8th heaven martial emperor was equivalent to a 5th or 6th heaven martial saint. Moreover, after the 5 elements sacred body, the golden core had almost mutated, and the true essence had also sublimated. Compared to the true essence of a martial saint, it was even better. The 5 elements sacred body supported the will of the 5 elements. The destructive will was enough to kill a martial saint. Among the martial sovereigns, he ignored them. Those below the 5th sky of the martial saint realm were nothing in his eyes. Only the powerhouses at the 5th sky of the martial saint realm were qualified to be in his eyes. But now, when his 5 elements Tao intent was unleashed, its power was shocking. The 3rd and 4th heaven martial saint realm experts were constantly destroyed by the 5 elements will. The 5th heaven experts' eyes were filled with fear. Such a mighty figure's method could kill a martial saint without even attacking. What kind of concept was this? In front of the will of the 5 elements, you are just ants. Li Lingtian waved his hands in the air and it was with this movement that the world trembled. This time, the trembling caused the space to shatter. Instantly, countless martial saints disappeared. Puff, puff. The sound of blood spurting could be heard. More than 10/5 sky martial saints spurted out blood, and their faces were pale. Die. Li Lingtian's hands moved quickly as countless mysterious shadows streaked across the sky before they shot toward the dozen or so supreme martial saints. Ah, 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 ah. A series of miserable cries sounded, and there were even sounds of experts being destroyed. In the sky, there were 5 kinds of qi: gold, green, black, red, and gray. They were all powerful enough to destroy the world. In front of this power, even a 5th sky martial saint could not resist or dodge. This was the true 5 elements will perfection. When unleashed by Li Lingtian's 5 elements sacred body, its power was earth-shattering. The entire army and the carefree dynasty's powerhouses were stunned. This was because Li Lingtian's move was an almighty superpower. How could a warrior withstand an almighty superpower? Moreover, martial artists were simply unable to understand these mystical mighty people's techniques. Naturally, they were unable to resist. Swoosh. As a gentle breeze blew past, the world fell silent. The explosions and screams disappeared. Li Lingtian hovered in the air as the 5 elements Tao, will and force vanished. All the powerhouses were stunned as they stared in horror at the sky, Li Lingtian, and everything that had just happened. All of this was like an illusion, because only illusions and fantasies could have such terrifying means. All of this could be said to be a magical divine technique. Li Lingtian looked at Martial Saint Ming Luo before his figure flashed and he returned to the war god. However, before he returned to the war god, he made a killing gesture with one hand. Kill, kill, kill. Destroy them all. Martial Saint Ming Luo shouted loudly. Her aura was shocking. The order this time didn't say that those who obeyed would prosper or those who rebelled would die. Instead, it was to kill them all. With this order, one would know how terrifying it was. The enemy's army of millions and countless supreme experts were going to be destroyed in this battle. Kill them. Kill them. Kill them. The carefree empire's army and the supreme powerhouses no longer had any scruples about the Iron Law. In their eyes, Li Lingtian's words were the oracle and the Iron Law. Rumble. Rumble. Ah, ah. Destructive explosions sounded between heaven and earth, and endless screams sounded. There were no more martial saints or martial emperors in the armies of the Cloudy Water Kingdom and the Moonsong Kingdom. An army without a martial saint or martial emperor would not be able to withstand a single blow from the Xiaoyao dynasty's army. The experts of the Xiaoyao dynasty vented all their grievances and anger on the enemy army. Nearly 2 martial saints and the divine martial army charged into the army. Each strike took away tens of thousands of soldiers. Instantly, the enemy army was destroyed and disappeared from the world. Run! Ah, ah! We surrender, we surrender. Surrender, ah! Seeing the carefree dynasty's army attack like this, it was like a massacre. The Moonsong Kingdom's army and the Cloudwater Nation's army were scared out of their wits. They no longer cared about their morale and began to flee. There were also countless armies that surrendered, but the result was that they were killed endlessly. They now understood that the army of the Xiaoyao dynasty wanted them to be destroyed, completely destroyed. This was because they had provoked and angered Li Lingtian. Freedom King dynasty's young emperor burned tens of thousands of corpses in anger. This was the anger of a true ruler, a true expert. Li Lingtian and the others were resting inside the war god. The battle outside had nothing to do with him. I didn't expect your 5 elements Tao intent to reach such a level. Tang Qingyue said happily as she nestled beside Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian had not used any moves, divine powers or treasures to kill the powerhouses. Just the 5 elements Tao intent alone had killed all the martial saint powerhouses. They had never thought of such a method. They did not expect such a miraculous technique to exist in this world. Now, They finally witnessed the horror of Li Lingtian's 5 elemental Tao will. This was the might of heaven and earth. The 5 elements belonged to the heaven and the heaven and earth were formed by the 5 elements. As long as one was in this heaven and earth, one would be bound by the 5 elements. Therefore, Li Lingtian had mastered the 5 elements will and naturally became the master. I've achieved the 5 elements sacred body and can control the 5 elements. Naturally, I'm more proficient in the will of the great path. They're just ordinary experts who haven't mastered the will of the great path. If I were to encounter a super martial saint who has mastered the will of the great path, I wouldn't be able to kill them like this. However, there aren't many experts in this world who can control the will. Martial Saint Qingmi is one of them. However, the will he controls isn't pure. Naturally, he's no match for me. No matter how strong your will is, you still need to have a strong cultivation base. If you don't have a strong and heaven-defying cultivation base, your will won't have much power. Li Lingtian said seriously. With the purity of his Tao will, the strength of his 5 elements sacred body, and his 8th heaven martial emperor realm, he could easily wipe out a 5th heaven martial saint powerhouse. What he needed to do now was to raise his cultivation and cultivate all kinds of powerful divine arts to the extreme or even the perfection realm. Now, I hope that you can use the 9 skies stars to kill the experts of the Moonsong Kingdom. There are countless experts in the Moonsong Kingdom, and their strength is terrifying. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to stand proudly among the countless kingdoms. The army of the Cloudwater Kingdom and the current Moonsong Kingdom have basically fled and been destroyed. The fleeing army is the best way to deal a blow to the morale of the other side. We can take advantage of the victory to pursue and wipe out the nearest few countries. Huang Fu Yuyan said to Li Lingtian. No matter what, she was the woman who took the bigger picture into consideration. She was also the most experienced and knowledgeable woman by Li Lingtian's side. In front of outsiders, she was Li Lingtian's gentle little woman. When they were alone, she was Li Lingtian's brain. Although her intelligence was not as high as Li Lingtian's, she was smart and broad-minded. She was a great help to Li Lingtian. Micham, you're right. The reason why the army is attacking is to let the enemy escape and weaken their morale. We can also take the opportunity to attack the other countries and cities. Let's see how much face the Moonsong Kingdom has left after we rule over all the upper-class kingdoms. If they send experts here, that would be the best thing. If they don't, we'll just kill our way to the Moonsong Kingdom. Li Lingtian spoke in a serious tone as he began to consider. There were countless powerhouses in Moonsong Kingdom. If the Carefree Dynasty's army were to invade Moonsong Kingdom, how would they face those supreme powerhouses? His cultivation was powerful, but he was helpless against countless super experts. Putting everything else aside, he would not be able to do anything even if a few of the 10 great martial saints joined forces. Moreover, the 1st and 4th rank of the 10 great martial saints belonged to the Wanyan family. He believed that the other 10 great martial saints wouldn't dare to make a move. At least, the 1st and 4th rank of the 10 great martial saints were about to make a move. Husband, all the experts of the Wanyan family are gathered in the Moonsong Kingdom. If their strength isn't scattered, it doesn't seem wise for us to go there like this. Shan Mei spoke softly after she saw Li Lingtian's thoughts. Her words were exactly what Li Lingtian was thinking about, and the other girls understood that as well. If the enemy's supreme powerhouses were to gather together and not disperse, the Carefree Dynasty would be attacked by all the supreme powerhouses once they made their way to Moonsong Kingdom. Li Lingtian would not be able to deal with them alone. Now, it's up to you. You guys cultivate the 5 elements reincarnation. Together with Ying Ying and my 5 elements sacred body, we'll form a reincarnation heaven and earth formation. Li Lingtian's eyes flashed with killing intent. Now that things had come to this, they could only go all out. If they didn't do this, they would never be able to win because the Carefree Dynasty's strength and foundation would never be able to defeat the Moonsong Kingdom. Unless they reached the martial saint realm one day, the carefree dynasty would be wiped out by the Moonsong Kingdom. Chapter 682, Long Tian City. Then let the army attack. We'll cultivate the 5 elements reincarnation to the great success stage during this period of time. When the time comes, we'll cooperate with you and Sister Yingying. Tang Qinyue and the others naturally understood Li Lingtian's plan. It was better to rely on oneself than on outsiders. Besides, although the carefree dynasty was powerful now, it was still a small force. However, Freedom King did not have a single level 5 expert. Without a level 5 expert, he could only rely on himself. At that time, he would defeat Moonsong Kingdom, wipe out Wanyan family, control Moonsong Kingdom, and gather all the super experts. Xiao, pass on the order to Marshal Saint Ming Luo. The army will continue to advance towards Moonsong Kingdom. All armies gather at Moonsong Sky City for the final battle. Li Lingtian nodded before he called out to Xiao for her to pass down the order. All the soldiers and powerhouses of the carefree dynasty knew that the girls around Li Lingtian were not simple people and they were on good terms with Li Lingtian. They were speaking on behalf of Li Lingtian. It wasn't the first or second time that he had asked Xiao to pass down the order. It was very normal for him to pass down the order this time. By the time Xiao went out to pass on the order, the armies of the Cloudwater Kingdom and the Moonsong Kingdom had already scattered and fled. The armies were quickly chasing after them. Li Shaojiang conveyed Li Lingtian's message to Marshal Saint Ming Luo. Marshal Saint Ming Luo was stunned for a moment before she became excited. As the commander of the 3 armies, he naturally understood the situation of the battle. The current strength of the Carefree Empire's army seemed powerful, but if they were to gather in Moonsong Sky City, they would definitely be attacked by all the super experts. Naturally, Li Lingtian understood what he understood. Since Li Lingtian had made such a decision, he must be confident that he could resolve the matter. Young Master D's Oracle. The army will sweep through the various countries and head straight for Moonsong Sky City. We will take down Moonsong Sky City and unify Moonsong Kingdom. Marshal Saint Ming Luo's voice spread throughout the army of millions. All the soldiers were stunned. Immediately, they cheered. Although the battle ahead was more difficult, having a grand goal was enough to support their will. Sweep the world. Sweep the world. Sweep the world. The army's momentum was like a rainbow, and their momentum shook the sky. Then, the army rolled forward like a thunderclap, heading all the way toward the Moonsong Kingdom. Although there were still 6 or 7 high-grade countries to pass through, as long as there were no super experts, they would directly ignore them. Along the way, just as Li Lingtian had said, all the powerhouses from various countries were recalled and gathered in Moonsong Sky City. The countries did not have any super experts, so they could only submit. A month had passed. Although the countries had submitted halfway and there was no need for war, the distance was too far. After a month of reorganizing and resting, the army finally arrived at the first city of Moonsong Kingdom. Long Tian Great City was one of the most important cities in Moonsong Kingdom. Since the Carefree Dynasty's army had entered Moonsong Kingdom, they had to take down Long Tian Great City. The Xiaoyao Dynasty's army had doubled. The 4 million martial arts grandmasters' army, the Divine Wind Army, the Divine Dragon Army, and the Divine Martial Army had almost doubled. More than 7 million soldiers were gathered outside Long Tian City. Even if Moonsong Kingdom wanted to gather all the super experts, they wouldn't allow the Carefree Dynasty to enter the kingdom. This was because this was a form of dignity that would not allow any invaders to enter the kingdom. Therefore, all the super experts of the various countries had gathered here. Hundreds of martial saints and more than 45th Sky martial saints were gathered on the city wall. There were less than 200 martial saints in the Xiaoyao dynasty, and they did not have a 5th Sky martial saint. Such a force was not enough to compete with Long Tian City. Everyone knew that their opponent was not the carefree dynasty's army but Li Lingtian. As long as Li Lingtian was killed, the carefree dynasty would be nothing. To all the countries and kingdoms, this was a joke, a humiliation. This was a humiliation that could never be erased, because all the experts and armies, even all the countries, were only facing one expert. Moreover, he was just an inconspicuous martial emperor. It was this martial emperor that made all the powerhouses and kingdoms feel fear. Now, he had gathered an army of tens of millions and countless super powerhouses just to deal with a martial emperor powerhouse. Li Lingtian's name had become a taboo in Moonsong Kingdom, but it had also become a legend for all the martial artists in the kingdom. A super saint alchemist, a mutated peerless medicinal pill, a martial emperor expert, and a martial saint. It seems like Li Lingtian has mastered the 5 elements Tao will to the perfection boundary. With our current strength, we're no match for him. Are we just going to die? Qing Feng was a super expert at the 5th sky of the martial saint realm. He had already reached the peak of the 5th sky. If he could get a level 7 great cyclic pellet, he would be able to break through to the 6th sky. Li Lingtian was the only divine alchemist who could refine a peerless grade mutated great rejuvenating pill. Furthermore, Li Lingtian's boldness was unparalleled. He helped others refine pills for free and gathered the hearts of the people. However, it was inappropriate for them to oppose Li Lingtian. Moreover, Li Lingtian's cultivation base was unparalleled. Even if they joined forces, they would not be a match for Li Lingtian. They would only be courting death. Naturally, Azure Peak asked the other powerhouses. Sigh, I don't want to either. I reached the 5th heaven because of the great cyclic pellet from you, Alchemy Saint. I can't repay you for your kindness, but now you want me to repay you with kindness. It's really inappropriate. Su Tianhao chimed in as well. He was also the one who had obtained the mutated peerless rejuvenating pill refined by Li Lingtian and was one of the powerhouses who had achieved a breakthrough because of the pill. However, they were forced to do so because the kingdom wanted the other countries to deal with Li Lingtian. Aren't you afraid of the kingdom's punishment? We are an affiliated kingdom of the kingdom. Now that the Freedom Dynasty is attacking the Moonsong Kingdom, we should contribute to the kingdom. If our morale is shaken at this time, how are we going to answer to the kingdom? Jin Wulin saw that some of the super experts were starting to worry, so he quickly stood up and used the kingdom to suppress these experts. They were shocked that Li Lingtian, a martial emperor powerhouse, had so many martial saint powerhouses grateful to him. It was truly incomprehensible. As a supreme powerhouse sent by the kingdom, he was sent to attack Li Lingtian's carefree dynasty on the surface. However, his real purpose was to monitor the movements of the powerhouses from various countries. Brother Jean, you rewrite. We belong to the kingdom and Brother Jean is the kingdom's ultimate powerhouse. When the time comes, Brother Jean will be the first to fight Li Lingtian. That's right. Brother Jean is a powerhouse in the kingdom and has great strength. It should be a piece of cake for him to deal with Li Lingtian. When the time comes, we'll see what Brother Jean can do. Brother Jean, if you can kill Li Lingtian, your reputation will soar. Martial Saint Jingmi and Heavenly Yin Knight are no match for Li Lingtian. If Brother Jean can defeat and kill him, Brother Jin's reputation will be the strongest in the kingdom. Originally, the experts of the various countries were not willing to go against the Xiaoyao dynasty. The super experts of the various countries were the core figures of the various countries. They were all worried about protecting the various countries. Now that the kingdom had given the order, they were going to be cannon fodder. They were naturally unhappy. Now that they saw Jin Wulin using the kingdom to suppress them, they were furious. However, they didn't dare to offend Jin Wulin easily. This Jin Wulin represented the Moonsong Kingdom. However, they were able to use such seemingly flattering words to insult Jin Wulin, which also counted the anger in their hearts. He's just a martial emperor powerhouse. Seeing you guys like this, you've really embarrassed the martial saint. Jean Wulin said coldly with a hint of disdain on his face. However, he regretted it after he finished speaking. Even if they had not witnessed Li Lingtian's prowess and methods, the person who had caused the kingdom to worry was definitely not a simple character. Moreover, Martial Saint Jingmi and Heavenly Yi Knight had been defeated, and young Master Yunfeng had been killed. Even a martial monarch realm expert was terrifying. By saying that, did he not agree to be the first to fight Li Lingtian? If he went back on his word, he would lose face. Roar! Kill them! The three armies moved, gathering in Longtian City. The 7 million strong army shook the heavens. The black mass of the army blocked the front of Longtian City until not even water could pass through. The terrifying aura distorted the air in the sky. The atmosphere was extremely oppressive. However, on the side of the Xiaoyao dynasty army, it was a heaven-shaking aura, an unstoppable aura. On the city wall of Longtian City, countless super experts were shocked, but they did not dare to retreat at this time. Although there were only 200 martial saint powerhouses in Freedom King Dynasty and none of them were at the fifth heaven of the martial saint realm, they knew that Li Lingtian alone could fend off countless martial saint powerhouses. Similarly, in Longtian City, countless troops were gathered together. However, the millions of troops had no morale at all. Roar! Kill them! Sweep the Black Continent and unify the world! Sweep the Black Continent and unify the world! The millions of soldiers of the Xiaoyao dynasty shouted in unison. Immediately, space was torn apart by these sound waves. The army of Longtian City was terrified, and countless experts were also shocked. From their morale and tone, they could tell that the Carefree dynasty wanted to unify the world, and the Moonsong Kingdom was just a stumbling block. It was hard to imagine how much courage and boldness it would take for a martial emperor powerhouse to have such courage and aura. Even kingdoms and empires would not dare to say such words. The sound shook the heavens and the earth trembled. At this moment, 200 martial saints flew up and floated in the air. They looked at the experts above Longtian City. The 200 martial saints looked at the 500 martial saints without any fear. Instead, their fighting spirit became even stronger. Chapter 683, Battle Outside the City, 1. Rumble. Crash. Rumble. In the sky, a loud explosion sounded, and the space trembled at this moment. All the experts looked over from the sky. When they saw the sky, their expressions changed drastically. A huge silver monster appeared in the sky. The silver monster was extremely fast and arrived above the Carefree dynasty army in the blink of an eye. The silver object was several miles in radius and 100 meters tall. It emitted a destructive aura that made countless experts tremble in fear. That heaven-defying pressure was so terrifying that it seemed as if it wanted to tear space apart. War God. This is the War God. Li Lingtian is here. Seeing this silver object, all the experts on Longtian Great City's city wall trembled in fear. This was because this massive spaceship was the War God that Li Lingtian had built. The War God's destructive power could even kill a martial saint powerhouse in an instant. Moreover, the arrival of the War God signified Li Lingtian's arrival. This was because the War God was Li Lingtian's flying treasure and also an offensive treasure. Wherever the War God was, Li Lingtian would be there. Now, the War God had arrived before the war even began. It seemed that Li Lingtian had decided to wipe out Moonsong Kingdom. Longtian City, very good, very good. In 10 seconds, those who comply will prosper, those who rebel will die, and those who don't will slaughter Longtian City. Li Lingtian walked out of the War God and glanced at Longtian City. He then spoke calmly. Although his voice was calm, his voice reached the ears of all the powerhouses in Longtian City. His tone was calm, but it made all the experts tremble. Li Lingtian was a man of his word. He would never joke or threaten anyone. He would take his words seriously. Even if he had billions of people, he would slaughter them all. Kill, kill. Kill, kill. Kill, kill, kill. Immediately after Li Lingtian's words, the Footloose Empire's army cheered loudly. This momentum, coupled with Li Lingtian's words, was a desperate movement. All the powerhouses were trembling. Even the fifth heavenly layer martial saint powerhouses were trembling in front of Li Lingtian's words. Boom! The 7 million soldiers took a step forward at the same time, causing the ground to tremble. Boom! Boom! The army was extremely orderly, and every single one of them was at the martial arts grandmaster realm. With such power, a single step would cause the heavens and earth to tremble. The shocking aura made the armies and experts of Long Tian City feel their hearts beating fast. They did not know what to do for a moment. I surrender. I'm willing to submit and follow you to sweep the world. Lam also willing to submit. At once, countless powerhouses looked at Li Lingtian's appearance and the might of his army. They knew that they would either die in battle or follow Li Lingtian to fight against the kingdom. 10 seconds was a very short time. If they still did not submit, they would be killed. The war god was so terrifying that a martial saint powerhouse would not be able to withstand it. Its attack would destroy everything. By then, Li Lingtian would not want it even if he submitted. After the first expert submitted, the other martial saints also submitted. Swoosh, swoosh. So, countless martial saints and martial emperors broke through the defense of the city wall and flew toward the Xiaoyao dynasty's army. He stood in the air at the side. All of a sudden, a total of 200 martial saint powerhouses had arrived at the Freedom King dynasty's side. Their strength had reversed. The battle had yet to begin, yet Li Lingtian's words had already caused 200 martial arts saints to betray him. At this moment, Long Tian City still had 300 martial saints, but Freedom King dynasty had 4. 0, 3. 2. Swoosh, swoosh. Swoosh, swoosh. Li Lingtian counted softly with a faint smile on his face. However, his terrifying aura had already erupted. Furthermore, the powerhouses in front of the war god had all avoided it. This was because once the war god's attack was activated, it would destroy the world. Naturally, no one dared to stand in front of the war god. Although Li Lingtian's voice was soft, it was like thunder in front of a martial emperor or martial saint powerhouse. Moreover, everyone was watching Li Lingtian as his every move was a matter of life and death in the war. 3 seconds after Li Lingtian's death, countless more experts flew out. In an instant, there were only 100 martial saints left in Long Tian City. Kill them! Kill them! Kill them! When Li Lingtian counted to the last number, he waved his hand and the war god immediately shot out 108 light shadows. The light shadows ignored the distance of the spatial zone. Even a few martial saints who flew out a little later were directly destroyed. Shocking shouts rang out as the army advanced step by step. Seeing Li Lingtian's decisiveness and the might of the war god, all the powerhouses who had submitted were terrified. If they had been a little late, they would have been killed in an instant. Rumble. 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 Ah, ah, ah. The power of the war god was earth-shattering. Under the light, countless martial saints and martial emperors died. Countless screams sounded, turning this quiet space into the end of the world. Kill them! Martial Saint Ming Luo shouted as the war god stopped. Immediately, the army of 7 million and countless martial saints charged towards Long Tian City. This was because the war god had already taken care of countless super powerhouses. As for the remaining ones, the army and the carefree dynasty's powerhouses could easily take care of them. Xiao Xiao brought over a recliner and Li Lingtian sat on it. On the coffee table beside him were countless spiritual fruits. Tang Qingyue and the rest surrounded Li Lingtian and chattered non-stop. Moreover, Qingping and Lu Min were massaging his shoulders from behind. From time to time, Xianyuan Yingying would feed Li Lingtian's spiritual fruits. She looked extremely carefree, just like a rich second generation of a family. Before the great battle, Li Lingtian, as the ruler, was actually so carefree in the face of countless martial arts saints. He did not take this battle seriously at all. Long Tian City's powerhouses and army nearly vomited blood when they saw Li Lingtian's state. However, the army and powerhouses from the carefree dynasty were amused by Li Lingtian's situation. At the same time, they were filled with respect and admiration for Li Lingtian. Only he had the courage and mindset to do so. This was a strong person. At any time, everyone had to follow his rules. This was the power of the strong, because no matter when, they could ignore the endless power of the strong. Boom! 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 The battle has begun. The carefree empire and the martial saints who have just surrendered shot towards the city wall like cannonballs. There were originally over 100 martial saints on the city wall. However, after the wargods attack, there were only a few left. Now, the elites of the carefree dynasty were being slaughtered. The army swept through Longtian City in an instant. Li Lingtian shook his head as he looked at the powerhouses. Big brother Lingtian, you're right. The Moonsong Kingdom doesn't take the other countries seriously. The experts of the other countries will die as cannon fodder, and the experts of the kingdom will only act at the last moment. Tang Zimeng saw Li Lingtian shake his head and roughly understood what he was thinking. Although there were many martial saints, there were not many super martial saints. Even the powerhouses at the fifth sky of the martial saint realm were ordinary. None of them were like the powerhouses among the 10 great martial saints. If those powerhouses were to come here, Li Lingtian would be able to kill them. Killing them one by one would be one less powerful opponent and threat. Yes, although there are 36 kingdoms under the Moonsong Kingdom, they are not a match for one kingdom even if they are all combined. Whether it is the martial saint experts or the strength of the army, there is no comparison between the two. The reason why the Moonsong Kingdom sent these martial saints to stop me is just to exhaust my energy. They will be waiting for us in Moonsong Sky City. At that time, they will catch us all in one fell swoop. There was a faint smile on Li Lingtian's face. Once the first city of Moonsong Kingdom was taken down, the difficulty in the future would be much smaller. Moreover, this was the perfect time to reorganize his army and forces, consolidate his strength, and then fight a decisive battle with the Moonsong Kingdom. Our 5 elements reincarnation has already been cultivated. When the time comes, we have to test how powerful the 5 elements reincarnation is. After we wipe out the attack on Moonsong Kingdom, we'll be able to properly cultivate for a period of time. The cultivation base of a martial emperor or martial saint is nothing in the Black Continent, let alone the divine continent of the divine martial continent. Huangfu Yuyan revealed a beautiful smile on her face. She was looking forward to the power of the 5 elements reincarnation. After the Black Continent was settled, she would be able to go to the divine continent. The divine continent was her hometown. When she left her hometown, she was a martial saint. But now, she had become a martial emperor. However, she didn't regret it at all. Instead, she felt even happier. That's right. In front of those experts, our cultivation is really too low. When our cultivation increases, we will make the other experts tremble. Xianyuan Yingying spoke in a delicate voice. She was an 8th heaven martial emperor. As Li Lingtian's cultivation increased, her cultivation would also increase. Both of them could share their cultivation and improve each other's cultivation quickly. Although Tang Qingyue and the others had dual cultivated with him, their cultivation was not as fast. Everyone's physique was different, so they were not jealous at all. On the contrary, they were happy. It did not matter who it was, as long as they could help Li Lingtian. As long as husband becomes a martial saint, our strength will be able to increase even more. It's simply heaven-defying to advance to the martial saint realm. Shun Mei looked at the martial saints and martial emperors flying all over the sky with an envious expression on her face. Li Lingtian was already so powerful despite being a martial supreme. If he were to reach the rank of a martial saint, who knew how powerful he would be and what kind of powerhouse would be able to fight Li Lingtian? It's indeed very difficult to become a martial saint. However, with Ling Tian's talent and aptitude, it shouldn't be that difficult to become a martial saint. Tang Qingyue smiled. Li Lingtian had the 5 elements: sacred body, flaming sacred body, ice spirit martial soul, heavenly sword body, and true dragon's voice. Any one of them was heaven-defying. It was not difficult for him to make a breakthrough. However, a breakthrough in cultivation required not only talent and aptitude but also opportunities. Chapter 684, Moon Song Sky City. Give me the map, Jade Slip. I want to take a look at the terrain and location ahead. Li Lingtian shouted at Qingping as he thought of something. These things were basically handled by Qingping and the others because he only needed to speak and order them to do it. The map Jade Slip was naturally with them. Young master, this is the map Jade Slip of Moonsong Kingdom. Qingping retrieved the jade slip from her storage pouch and handed it to Li Lingtian. Li Lingtian received the map jade slip and inserted his divine consciousness into it. He took a look at the map of the entire Moonsong Kingdom in his mind. After a full minute, Li Lingtian withdrew his divine consciousness with a faint smile on his face. Without waiting for the other girls to speak, he told them what he wanted to do. In the Moonsong Kingdom, when we reach the Moonsong Sky City, we have to pass by a place called the Evil Dragon Sea. That place is a boundless sea. We can go through there and kill some monsters. The powerful monster cores can become the Wargot's power source. The smile on Li Lingtian's face grew wider. In the Evil Dragon Sea, 1 or 2 martial saint powerhouses would not dare to venture in. They could only take a detour around the edge of the sea. This was because there were countless powerful sea beasts inside, which were also the sea race. The powerful marine race would often have 7th or 8th grade sea beasts. This time, when the army of millions passed by, they naturally wouldn't worry about these sea beasts and would kill them while they were at it. You really know how to calculate. With a few million troops, just the divine martial army alone is enough to wipe out all the sea beasts. With the War God Legion led by Longda and hundreds of martial saints, even if we encounter a level 8 or level 8 sea beast, we can kill it. When the time comes, we'll use the resources of Moonsong Kingdom to attack it. Huangfu Yuyan burst into laughter when she heard Li Lingtian's plan. If the people of Moonsong Kingdom were to hear about it, they would definitely be angered to death. One should know that the Evil Dragon Sea was as important as the bottomless abyss in Nandu County in Moonsong Kingdom. If so many experts and armies plundered Evil Dragon Sea, Wanyan family would collapse. This is also on the way. Anyway, this Evil Dragon Sea will be ours in the future. Li Lingtian did not seem to mind as he acted as if nothing had happened. His expression was also extremely relaxed. How about this? You settle the matters in Dragon Sky City first. When we pass through the Evil Dragon Sea, we'll pass down the order. Otherwise, the experts and army of Moonsong Kingdom will come to stop us in the Evil Dragon Sea. Tang Qingyue said. In fact, they weren't worried about the army and experts of the Moonsong Kingdom. On the contrary, they hoped that the army of the Moonsong Kingdom would come out and separate their forces. However, they needed resources now. With these resources, the war god would become even more powerful. Naturally, they didn't want the army and experts of the Moonsong Kingdom to arrive at this time and affect their efforts to kill the sea beasts of the Evil Dragon Sea. Following that, Li Lingtian and the rest rested on the war god while the army reorganized. After reorganizing, the army received Li Lingtian's order to head to Moonsong Sky City. Along the way, he didn't encounter any more obstructions and directly charged towards Moonsong Sky City. Moonsong Kingdom also knew how powerful the Carefree Dynasty was. If they scattered their forces, they would be defeated by the Carefree Dynasty one by one. Rather than that, they might as well wait for the Carefree Dynasty's army to arrive at the city and then have a decisive battle. However, Moonsong Kingdom never expected Li Lingtian to send hundreds of thousands of divine martial army and martial saint powerhouses into the evil Dragon Sea. They swept the sea beasts in the evil Dragon Sea and plundered all the resources. It made Wan Yannu furious, but he didn't send an army to stop them, because they knew it would be useless. With the power of the divine martial army and the hundreds of martial saints, all the sea beasts were killed wherever they went. By the time they arrived, Li Lingtian's army would have basically wiped out the entire evil Dragon Sea. Moreover, if their forces were scattered, they would be defeated one by one. Detestable, too detestable. I'll definitely crush Li Lingtian into 10,000 pieces. Wan Yannu was furious. His eyes were icy cold and he was not afraid of Li Lingtian's strength. That was because there were countless super experts on his side. The Carefree Dynasty's army is indeed powerful. Even our Moonsong Kingdom's army might not be able to contend against them. However, no matter what war it is, the one who truly decides the outcome is still the martial saint. The one who fights is the strongest. As long as we kill Li Lingtian, the Carefree Dynasty will fall apart. He was ranked 4th among the 10 great martial saints. His cultivation had already reached the 6th sky of the martial saint realm, and he had cultivated the great burning sky scripture to the extreme. Although he was ranked 4th among the 10 great martial saints, he would not be afraid even if he encountered the 3rd and 2nd ranked martial saints. This was because his Great Burning Heavens manual was one of the 3 top-tier heaven-rank cultivation techniques in Moonsong Kingdom. The number 1 super expert of the 10 great martial saints was the number 1 genius of the Wanyan family and also the number 1 genius of the Moonsong Kingdom. Naturally, he didn't have the slightest confidence in defeating them. Both of them cultivated the Great Burning Sky scripture. This time, it's all up to you guys. The others can't be relied on. If it doesn't work, call out our ancestor. Otherwise, Moonsong Kingdom will be finished. In fact, the Freedom Dynasty does not have much power. As long as we kill Li Lingtian, we will be able to take care of the Freedom Dynasty. This will allow the Freedom Dynasty to unite all the kingdoms and save us the trouble of dealing with them one by one. Wan Yannu looked at Wan Yanhao and Wan Yanlingfeng and said seriously. In the Wan Yan family, other than the 2 top 10 martial saints, there were also a few super heaven-defying experts. They were all elders of the Wan Yan family. Their cultivation strength was at the 6th sky. Moreover, there was also an old ancestor who had reached the 7th sky of the martial saint realm 100 years ago. However, he had been in seclusion all these years and had never appeared. He did not even know if he was dead or alive. Let Dongguo Qingyun take action against Li Lingtian. If Dongguo Qingyun fails, we'll take action and kill Li Lingtian in one fell swoop. I heard that the girls around Li Lingtian are peerless beauties. We'll take action together. Let's see how he'll react when we're distracted. Wan Yanlingfeng's face revealed a vicious expression. He was at the peak of the 6th sky of the martial saint realm and was known as the number 1 genius in the Moonsong Kingdom. Otherwise, his cultivation would be the 2nd person in Wan Yan family to reach the 8th sky of martial saint realm in 10,000 years. Don't show your faces for now. It's best if you don't do anything. I'll get someone else to do it. That way, Li Lingtian's quintessential essence will be depleted. Wan Yannu glanced at Wan Yanlingfeng. Wan Yannu's talent was not as good as theirs and could only manage Moonsong Kingdom. However, Wan Yanlingfeng's talent was heaven-defying and he was also the most influential figure in the Wan Yan family. Naturally, Li Lingtian and the rest were unaware that there were already tens of millions of troops waiting in Moon Song Sky City. However, the evil dragon sea was already over. The evil dragon sea was boundless. They didn't come here specifically to hunt sea beasts. They just wanted to kill sea beasts to increase the power source of the war god. This time, countless 7th and 8th grade sea beast inner cores entered Long Da's hands. Tens of thousands of 7th grade sea beast inner cores and thousands of 8th grade sea beast inner cores. There were even 5 or 6 level 8 or level 7 sea beast inner cores. Although level 8 or level 7 sea beast inner cores were powerful, they might not be able to kill a 7th heaven martial saint expert. However, Li Lingtian had no intention of using the war god to kill off 6th or 7th heaven martial saints. He only needed to clear some obstacles before he would be the one to make the move. The army once again rushed towards Moon Song Sky City. Within half a month, the army had entered Moon Song Sky City. It was the first sky city Li Lingtian had seen. In the divine martial continent, only cities with a radius of tens of millions of miles and the cities of martial saints could be called heaven cities. As a kingdom, the capital of Moonsong Kingdom was naturally called Heaven City. The capital of Moonsong Kingdom, Moonsong Sky City, was more than 10 million miles away. The entire Moonsong Sky City was 8,000 miles long and 4,000 miles wide. It was more than 30,000 miles in size. Moonsong Sky City was also the place with the densest spiritual energy in the entire kingdom. It was suitable for experts to cultivate because the bottom of Moonsong Sky City was formed by countless spiritual veins. It was definitely a blessing to be able to cultivate in this place. Looking at the towering buildings and the tall and magnificent city walls, it gave off a destructive pressure and aura. This was the aura of a large city. What a powerful Moon Song Sky City. Cultivating here is definitely not bad. No wonder these people want power. With such a good place to cultivate and endless cultivation resources, anyone would want to be king. Li Lingtian looked at Moon Song Sky City in the distance. Even though they were thousands of miles away, he could still feel Moon Song Sky City's powerful aura. He said indifferently, his face filled with shock. In the past, he had seen countless large cities, but those so-called large cities paled in comparison to this Moon Song Sky City. Big brother Ling Tian, let's work hard and conquer this place. We'll cultivate here then. Xianyuan Yingying was also extremely shocked. Although the Tianhe city of the Tianhe region was powerful, she was already used to that place. There was nothing new about it. Instead, she liked this Moon Song Sky City. In fact, Moon Song Sky City was still a little inferior to Tianhe Saint City. It was just that the aura of this place was stronger than Tianhe Saint City. Tianhe Sacred City did not have city walls, nor was it this big. However, the spiritual energy here was not much different from this place. This was the political center, a world of hegemony, but Tianhe's sacred city was a paradise. Alright, let's gather our army and prepare to attack Moon Song Sky City. We'll wipe out all the experts in Moon Song Sky City, and we'll stay here. Li Lingtian smiled and agreed. Wasn't it just Moon Song Sky City? This time, they were here to have a showdown with Moonsong Kingdom. Either the Carefree Dynasty was destroyed, or Moonsong Kingdom would become history. You're tuning into the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.